I'm trying to live until I die. Come connect, you know it's a lewd state of mind. Yeah, yeah, talking traveling. If you wanna fly, fitness and finance, living a better life, keep it raw, no filter, living with no limit. Thank you for tuning in. Come on, let's get it.
Michael Zupecki.
That's the one.
Did I pronounce that correct?
You did for being in Australia, yes. So that's sort of the phonetic pronunciation. But in Poland, where it originates from, and I didn't know this until I was maybe mid-20s, it's Zupecki. Zupecki, yeah. And so it's funny, I can always tell if somebody's from Europe or they have European heritage because they'll intuitively pronounce it like that if they see my name and they'll say, oh, Zupecki. And then I immediately ask where they're from.
So you're born and bred in Australia?
Yeah, I am. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't lived anywhere else for an extended period of time. I've done travel, but I've never actually lived overseas.
Okay. And your parents are Polish?
My father?
Yes.
So he was born here, but his parents had just migrated after World War II. And that's actually a really crazy story. We didn't know much about that, but one of my cousins tracked down the whole history of how the parents met. And
really?
we could even talk about that if you want.
I'm sure we can get to that.
It's really interesting, yeah. It's like a movie.
I'll tell you what, before we get stuck into the podcast,
sure.
Once again, welcome to Lewd Studios. It's great to have you here. Look, you don't know anything about me. I don't know a lot about you.
Yep, perfect.
There's one thing I just want to get something out of the way. This is a video of me when I was a little bit younger.
Yep.
And I just feel that personally, I think that we need to get it and just clear the air.
You got to get it off your chest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matty, you got that video, mate?
Freebase and cocaine, as far as that goes, I don't do it. Now, I take a drink, every now and then I'll have a drink, and I will smoke a little weed. I'll do some toot now. I'll do a little toot. If somebody give it to me, offers it to me, I mean, it sounds polite if you don't. So I do a little toot, somebody offers it to me, but if I will not. I'll repeat, I want y'all all know this right now, because I went down there to the restaurant and at treatment center. I will not freebase cocaine. It's no longer part of my life. No, not drinking. I will have a drink. And I'll smoke some reefer. I'll smoke a couple of doobies a day, or just to get you through the day. And I'll do a little toot every now and then. Yeah, I'll get about a half a G, and just sit around, and me and Sally, my girlfriend, will do a little toot, just for fun, every now and then. And I'll tell you what though, about that drink, I won't drink any tequila. Now, I might have a drink, but I won't drink tequila, because last time I drank that tequila, I got wild on that stuff, and I beat up Sally, hit Sally, broke a car window out, and I won't do that anymore. But, that and freebase, and I will not freebase cocaine anymore.
I will not freebase cocaine anymore.
Not freebase cocaine.
I don't do it anymore. I do still drink tequila though.
Okay.
I just wanted to get that out there, mate.
That's still partly you.
Just clear the air. I just can't believe how good my hair looked back then.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's amazing.
And those
You've still got it though, right? I don't have it under here. That's why I got this on.
Oh, really?
I mean, no. I shave it. But I've actually got a head tattoo. I got my hair tattooed on. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I was shaving it anyway, and then it started thinning out at the front. And I just thought, why not? Like, I'm already shaving it.
Well, that's a whole process, isn't it? How long ago did you get that done? It was because
2022.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was a thing, and then a guy I know got it, and I was like, you can't tell, right? So even now, I mean, maybe after we have a break, I'll take the hat off and
I'd like to see it.
Yeah. I tell people, and they're right in front of me, and they say, really, I still can't even tell. So
was there an option to do the hair transplant? Did you look at that or?
Yeah, it's funny because the same year I went to Turkey, which is where everybody goes.
Of course.
Turkey hair, and I saw people at the airports with it that were flying. We transferred to Greece, and there were other people coming out of Turkey, Istanbul, and you can tell because they're in line and it's raw. It's like their hairline's drawn on in pink almost because it's just raw. I had this done before I went, and I decided a long time ago that's not for me.
Yep.
I shaved my hair off. I used to have big self-esteem problems around it, and when I shaved it off, that was part of accepting it.
Yeah.
And then I discovered underneath, hey, my head actually is in okay shape. It's not really weird. I didn't discover any kind of weirdness about it, so I'm like, this is it now. This is me.
This is you.
Yeah. So I don't need to go and do all the extra stuff and spend the money and take all those health risks. Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
It's been good. Yeah.
You got any more ink on you? Are you inked?
So this is a joke that I make. I only have one more tattoo. So these tattoos are all dots, and the other tattoo I have is also dots. It's just a semicolon.
Oh, cool.
Which was in solidarity with people who've gone through suicide, either themselves and survived, or people who have been around that themselves. And this was, I can't remember when this was, but there was a sort of a campaign, or it went viral, and tattoo parlors were giving them out for free. And I thought, I don't have a tattoo yet. This is before my other dots.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and I just thought it's really nice. So.
And it means something. It really means something.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant. Hey, you've got a long resume here. Obviously, we've been emailing. The good thing about it is that we've got a friend in common, Elijah from AS Colour.
Yeah, legend.
He's just been on the podcast again. The
Yep.
reason why you contacted us was through that.
Yes.
Through Elijah. So he texted me. Sorry, you texted me originally.
Yeah.
And I automatically went and texted Elijah. Mm-hmm. And this is the screenshot from the text that I sent to Elijah.
Okay, here we go.
So you've said to me, hey, what kind of people do you have on your podcast? I've been on a few and would love to chat. And what can you tell me about this cat is what I text to Elijah. And he says,
Wow.
he's probably the most intelligent person I know.
It's funny. It's interesting seeing it because we had a phone call, I remember, and you told me that he responded like that, and I reached out to him and just said that's such an amazing compliment. But seeing it there is just that's the concrete. That's actually really
How cool is that?
very flattering. It's mostly because we've had many drunken nights, and I'll rant at him about random shit like nanotechnology, and they used to pull me into the room at parties and go, Zupecki, tell them about nanotechnology. And that just became a meme.
Yeah.
Because I was always just reading weird books and I'd just share what I was reading. That was basically it. So I'm very flattered. Thank you, Elijah.
That is awesome. Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Elijah. So you sent me through that things that you're into and have explored. So you've got multiple career paths, so acting, sales. We're going to get into all of these.
Yep.
Acting, sales, video game design, creative writing, graphic design, web design, back-end and front-end engineering.
Yep.
Consulting, systems engineering, which is you said your current role.
Yep.
You've been involved in small business before.
Yep.
And multiple areas of studying, including civil engineering, business, creative and professional writing, design, computer science.
Yep.
That's
I didn't finish most of those things, but they're on there.
I was going to say, what don't you do? How old are you, mate?
38. 38. So
I'll tell you what, you don't look 38.
Oh, really? Oh,
No.
great. How old are you? I should have asked you actually what you thought before I answered.
I would have said like late 20s.
Really?
Early 30s.
Oh, I could still scrape into the 20s.
Yeah,
That's
you can,
cool.
mate.
That's
can.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I haven't shaved my hair off for about 8 years, and I'm scared to. And I'd probably look like I was 18 if I
You're
did
talking
that,
about
so.
your
Yeah.
goatee.
I just kind of cut it back to a reasonable length, but I'm petrified now of what's under there.
you would look a lot younger.
Yeah, I'm scared of that actually.
Yeah, don't do it. You don't need to do it.
Yeah, thank you.
So as I said, there's a lot of talking points here.
Yeah.
mate. A lot of talking points. If we're talking about your current role.
Sure.
Now, there was a reason why you're in your current role. We were talking about it off camera.
Yep.
Can you explain to me what, why, and how?
Oh, and how I got there. Oh, so we were talking about how I had internal barriers, and then once I got rid of those, I was able to progress. And I think what we just spoke about was the fact that I was diagnosed with mild adult ADHD when I was 32.
Can you, sorry to stop you there.
Yeah.
Mild. I've never heard the word mild in there.
Yeah, so there's sort of a gradient.
Okay. Can
Yeah.
you explain that?
It's a gradient. It's like anything else. It's a spectrum. So, if somebody's on the autism spectrum, ASD, there's really a gradient. So you effectively do a kind of test, and there's numbers that come out of that. And so you can be anywhere from, with a toe in on that spectrum that's slightly over the normative line, all the way up to extreme, right? And so that was just the terminology they used with me. And I think it was because I was still functional. And it's also, there's two types, which I didn't know. I have inattentive, which is the underdiagnosed type because it's hidden. And inattentive basically just means rather than hyperactive. So everybody knows that kid at school.
Yes. Yep.
Couldn't focus, running around, throwing chairs or yelling at the teachers, right? Everyone looks at that and goes, something's wrong with that kid. And people try to help, right? Because it's obvious. Inattentive is I'm in the corner. I don't find the work stimulating. I'm trying to pay attention. And then I just slip internally and look out the window and I can't maintain focus. And that affects your performance, but it can look like disinterest or laziness.
Well, that's a perfect explanation, and you can understand if you think about, I think about back to the schoolroom, back in my days, which was a long, long time ago.
Yep.
And you think about everybody that's slotted into either one of those categories.
Yes.
And as you say, the spectrum of everybody in between.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's no right or wrong way to teach or to treat these kids.
Yes.
In that environment.
Yeah.
But they still need their own attention.
Absolutely. And the other interesting talking point about this too is that inattentive is more associated with women generally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a testosterone thing. Like guys are a little bit more physically amped up. Maybe that's part of it. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but it also means that women are underdiagnosed because it's more hidden, right? Again, if you think back to school, even anecdotally, you just think if there was that person, that student that was running around being a bit physically crazy, it was usually a guy. And maybe women are just more self-contained or just because of a whole bunch of reasons, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Cool. So how did this diagnosis come about?
So one of the things that kind of stands out you pointed out there's a lot of stuff on my resume, right? That's a symptom just there. I could never stick with things all the way through. I'd get absolutely passionate about something at the expense of everything else for a period of time, and then I would drop off and just very inconsistent. And you learn as you go out into the world on your own, you leave home, that the adult world rewards consistency more than passion or performance in short bursts.
Of course, yes.
So, if you're really, really good today, but, you're not so great tomorrow, it's hard for you to stay at a business even, right? Because as an employee, you look very inconsistent. And that was always confusing to me. I just thought, what the hell's wrong with me? It doesn't feel right. My thought experiment was, it must be abnormal because if everybody was like this, the world would fall apart. Right? If everybody was inconsistent, like the world is relatively consistent and there's consistent people who turn up and make sure things keep working. So I thought something's off, right? And I went and asked a GP about depression, and I always thought I would have spouts of getting depressed, but for me it always felt circumstantial. I'm depressed because of a pressure or I haven't managed something and it feels like too much. And so I never got diagnosed with it. It was always, you're not depressed. My GP that I've known since I was a kid, who I don't go to anymore, he tried to father me one day and said, it's just because you need to sort your life out and get a proper job. This was when I was in my early 20s. And I thought,
How do you think about that right now, looking back at that? Because that denial of giving you what you needed is just a slap in the face.
It was. And, I try to, and we'll get into this in terms of philosophy and all this, having read a lot of books on psychology, this is ironic because I wasn't the doctor in this case, but I do see that was coming from his human side. He's dismissive. He was probably tired, grumpy. He's got a million things on his plate.
But he had a long day, exactly. Yeah.
Probably right. And so he's just spoken out of turn. He's known me since I was a kid. Maybe he felt a little bit like, an emotional attachment, or like he was like a little bit of a father figure in a way, right? So he stepped into that instead of the professional doctor part of himself. And so I understood that, but I thought I'm not going back because I'm not getting my support that I need. He was great until that point, and that was it. And then many, many years passed, and I just struggled against it, changed careers. I got into video games. I stuck with that for a bit. That was great. And then the GFC hit. And so that sort of ended that, right? But I thought I found something now. But I was still struggling against it. And eventually I found the new doctor, came recommended, this guy named Dr. Robert Lewis. He's retired now, which is a shame. He's amazing. And I went to him and I sat in his office and he said, so why do you think you have ADHD? I'd done an online survey actually before this. You can kind of self-diagnose this by doing a thing. And I'd done it 10 times over time just to see if it was consistent. And it was. Yep. And I sat there and I said, he goes, why do you think you have this? And I said, here's a really trivial example. I maintain a reading list. I was up to 8 books that I was reading simultaneously, too much. I tried to get it down. I got it down to 4, and I just started reading in 5th in the waiting room. And he laughed and he said, well, that kind of sounds like it might be, just as a joke. And then I'll never forget this. After asking me a little bit more about my struggles, he breached a physical barrier, but it was really nice. He put his hand on my knee and he leaned in and he said, you've been really struggling with this, haven't you? And even now saying it, I feel emotional because it was like, that hit me. Yeah. And it was like the last doctor, for whatever reason, couldn't go into that space. And this guy who I just met said that. And I just thought, holy shit, yes, like, thank you. And then he no questions asked. He just listened. Yeah. And then he sent me to a psych and yeah, that was it. Got the meds and everything changed after that. Yeah.
Talking about medication, we've discussed it here prior on the podcast about ADHD and the need for medication to regulate patients.
Yep.
There's 2 types.
Of
we were
medication?
discussing?
Yeah. So there's multiple brands, I guess, and compounds, but there's two main approaches in terms of how it works neurobiologically in the brain. So I'm on dexamphetamines, and that actually, I think of it like one style of medication is like a forward actor, and one is a lean back sort of actor.
Okay.
So Dexies, in my mind, are a forward actor. So they cause something to happen that doesn't usually happen. They give you more dopamine. And dopamine helps you regulate attention. And so the theory with ADHD is if this is normative baseline of dopamine in the brain, people with ADHD are down here, right? And one of the ways you can increase dopamine is with stimulus. That's why make jokes, eat sugar, disrupt the classroom. And it's just your brain trying to come up, right? So Dexies increase that to the baseline naturally. Well, not naturally, but they bring you back to this normative place. And something like Ritalin is opposite. So it's what's called a reuptake inhibitor. So in my head, I call that like a lean back. And it slows down your brain cleaning up your dopamine. So your brain filters it out. So if you've got a lower level and your brain's filtering it out too quick, by inhibiting that, the natural levels build up.
Okay.
And that's how you get there. So they have the same outcome and just opposite approach. Yep.
And do you remember how you felt the first time you took
Yeah.
Dexy?
Yeah, I was a little bit off my head, like flying in terms of, I felt really high and a bit wired, but I expected that because they are an amphetamine. And I've had amphetamines before, just never the prescribed type.
Yeah.
I had my experimental phase and I tried a bunch of stuff and
I was going to ask you that question about so a lot of people with this gap in the dopamine, they self-prescribe and they're doing
Correct.
They're doing drugs and they're doing stimulants.
Yes.
Obviously, they're a black market.
Yep.
To try to get up to a normal level to feel normal.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that part of your struggle as well? Did you go through that process where you were trying to self-medicate to try to experiment, like I'm not feeling right, but if I take this, I feel somewhat normal or somewhat euphoric or better than?
Sure. I'm really glad you asked this, actually. I don't think anyone's ever asked exactly that. And there was a realization, actually. And if someone's comfortable enough to talk about drug taking, it's something that I usually try to share. So it's really, really cool that you just narrowed in on that, actually. So originally when I started, I was hanging out with people that I just met who were a little bit older than me, and they had experience just recreationally. And so it started off being like, I'm an open-minded person. I went and read about the compounds and how they act in the brain.
Of course you did.
Because I'm like, what am I getting myself into here, right?
Well, that's a good thing about the situation that you're in. You're not going to just take something for the sake of it without knowing exactly, as you say, what the compounds are, what it do, what it can, what it can't do.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about the situation that you're in and your undiagnosed state is that it enables you to do all these processes, and to like the reading of the 5 or 8 books or something you were saying at the same time.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, exactly. And I remember being kind of shocked because I went and read about MDMA before I tried that. And, I read a bunch of stuff on Wikipedia and I came back to my friends and I was like, I just kind of off cuffed said, it's methylene dioxyl methamphetamine. And they're like, how the fuck do you know that I'm like, how do you guys take this and not know, right? Like this is like a lot of people don't though. And so I don't hold it against people, but I just wanted to understand, and it wasn't out of a fastidious sort of a need to control. I need to know what goes into my body. It's just curiosity. I'm like, what is this thing? How does it work? And the most important thing you can take, you can learn officially if you're going to experiment, is the difference between ED and LD, which is effective dose and lethal dose.
Right.
And it's called LD50, and it's called lethal dose 50 because it is where in testing, 50% of the candidates that receive that dose will die. It's fatal. Right, so they average it out. And some drugs have a really wide margin between effective and lethal. And anything they give you that's prescription has a really wide margin. And it just means effective dose is where you get high.
Yes.
Right? That's where the fun begins.
Yep.
And then if you're going to push boundaries, you're going to push past that. You want to know the LD is very far away. And you have things like that I've never tried, like liquid G, where the LD50 and the ED are very close.
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah, they're very, and that's why it's the difference between a mil or 2 and you're dead.
It's
right?
like fentanyl as well, too. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. It's got that short, as you say, that short distance between having fun and dying.
Correct. Yeah, and nothing's worth gambling with that. And so if you're somebody who's tried other drugs and you think, oh, I've done a triple drop and I'm okay. Part of that is because the LD50 is so far away that you're fine, right? And you don't realize that. You think maybe I'm really resilient, but it's a biological thing. And then yet maybe you're someone that an experience with liquid G and you go, I'm used to this now. I'm going to push it. It doesn't matter how tolerant you are to the experience, you'll die. Right? So that was really that was kind of a turning point. Or just making sure I understood that and sharing that with people around me. And then to your original question, did I discover that stimulants were helpful? I did towards the sort of last half of that. So I got out of the partying phase.
What period of your life are we talking?
This is
early 20s?
Early 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was living out of home, working in video games with a guy that I know, and we were working together at the same company. And so this is early to mid 20s, and yeah, just the people I was hanging out with, it just was an experimental phase. And then I moved out of that place, and I went back to university, and I was trying to figure out where I was going seriously, coming up to 30, I saw that coming, and I still experimented a little bit, but it became clinical. I realized that when I have light amphetamines, I noticed where my friends who were having it would sit up and rant, and I would do that as well and have a great night and party.
Yeah.
I was more inclined to want to sit at my computer because I felt like all of this study and all these things I want to learn that's what I want to do. And there's no barrier now. And it did actually occur to me that, well, that's a sign actually. And you learn that if you don't have ADHD because your dopamine's normative, and you have ADHD medication, it can make you feel erratic and high, like on a party drug.
Yeah.
But if you have it, you have the right amount, and you're like, it's like I don't feel anything. I just feel normal. And so that was a huge realization. So yeah, absolutely, that did come out the back of trying things. And the psychiatrist asked me that, and I was like, yeah, I've tried all this. And I think he then felt comfortable, and he just prescribed me in like 30 minutes, which may have been careless, but I took it. I'm like, I want this tool, and it really did turn everything around. Yeah.
Was there any one compound that you liked over the others?
The illicit ones?
Yeah.
MDMA.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it's good, it's clean, and if you look at, again, the ED and LD, the LD is basically so far away, it's a non-issue. People die from dehydration, not from toxicity. Yeah. So if you understand that it's safe and you know where it's come from, it's safe. I'm not saying go and do it, but...
No. We don't condone it here. But it's just quite interesting because, I mean, back in the day when we were partying, you were getting pills and they were called ecstasy. And it had MDMA in it.
Yes.
But you didn't know how much. It had a whole lot of other shit in there as well.
Yep.
Battery acid, whatever. They
laced.
could fucking cram into there.
Yep.
And it's not pure. And that's the one thing that, especially with Lewis, is about living a healthy life. But if you choose to use or consume drugs, whether it's pharmaceuticals or it's natural, it's medicinal, it's good to know exactly what you're consuming.
Totally.
That's the problem these days is with these young kids. I mean, I've got a young teenage son that, there's MDMA in schools, in high schools.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
We had weed going around, but it wasn't
weed was harmful.
Yeah.
They say it's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
And there's argument for and against that.
That's right.
But the good thing about it is it's like mushrooms. They're natural.
Yep.
They're naturally occurring. Your body processes them in a certain way. It's the pharmaceuticals, and it's just the not knowing what's in the product. That's the scary thing.
Exactly. And not knowing your personal tolerances, not being in a safe environment, and as you say, not being able to source it. And the best you can do, unless you make it yourself, which I would recommend even less than doing it because that's massively illegal. But you really have to go. You have to have people vouch. That's all you can do. So the best thing you can do, and this is true of anything in life, it's such a cliche, but the more you know, the more equipped you are to make a better decision.
For sure, educate,
100%,
regulate. Yeah.
And there were times where I had a lot. But I always had a space in my head that I could step into because I'd read about it and I understood it. That I'm like, this is actually normal and it will filter out of my system. And I just have to not internally panic, because if you internally panic, you backfeed, right? Yeah. You go, oh, cool, I just had something intense happen to me. Now I'm going to have a panic attack and I'm going to assume that's the drug because my internal systems are going to take over. And then people can have meltdowns. Yeah. But you need that space in your head to go, hang on a sec, I took a drug.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's not that easy. That's the thing is like I've had situations where I've taken compounds and I've waited for them to kick in.
Yeah.
And I remember one situation, we were at a party and it kicked in and the colour in my face would have just washed away because I felt it. I felt it just wash over me. And I looked over at my wife. She was on the opposite side of the party.
Yep.
And she looked at me and she goes, what the fuck?
I was going to say, did she know?
Happened?
Did she know?
She didn't know I consumed it. No,
oh, right.
Not at that point.
Yep.
But she looked at me and she knew something had happened. And I had to immediately have to get out of the room because it was just overwhelming, all-consuming.
Yep.
And the one thing about panic attacks and anxiety,
Yep.
if people haven't experienced it, they don't understand the mechanics behind it and how it can be regulated.
Yes.
Because it's all up in your head.
That's
It's a
right.
physical reaction to what your brain's it's just trying to fuck you over.
That's right.
It's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Because it's an arsehole fucking process.
Yeah,
As far as
absolutely.
every time I've had a panic attack, it's like this is irrational. It should not happen.
Yep.
The good thing about it these days is that I can identify it and I can deal
That's
with
the
it.
thing.
But if it's never happened before, or maybe you're uneducated, and you can't process the mechanics of it, because as you say about a lot of things, it's the mechanics of how things work. I
Yes.
want to know how shit works. I want to know how that molecule works in my body. I want to know
Yes.
how the engine turns over. I want to know what makes that fucking thing tick.
Yep.
And to have that sort of mindset, it's a good thing because you want to analyze anything that's going to go into your body,
Totally.
or how your body reacts. Just like we were talking about the doctors.
Yeah.
The one thing that we've always said here at Lewd is go to your fucking doctors. People don't do it on a regular basis.
100%. Yeah.
And if you go to the doctors and you don't get the response that you want,
Yep.
go to another doctor.
Yes.
Don't just settle for that like you did with your doctor. It
Yep.
got to the point where you understood where you weren't going to get the help that you needed.
He can't help me anymore.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. He can't help you.
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't want to help you.
Yeah.
He just can't help you.
It's where he is at. Yeah, and where
exactly.
I'm at. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
The stars aren't going to align on everything in everybody's life.
That's right.
And it's just that one of the messages that we've got here at Lewd is just go to your fucking doctors.
Yep.
If something doesn't feel right, go to your doctors. If it still doesn't feel right, you don't get the answer that you want, fucking find
Keep
something
trying.
else.
Yeah, and because people can be like, especially through COVID, there was this sort of, unfortunately, this viral mentality that the medical industry is very almost coming out of America, sort of sentiment that big pharma and doctors, they don't really help you, and it's like the medical industry, regardless of what you believe, is based on a lot of science and decades and decades and decades of it, done by hundreds of thousands of people. Like we're talking one of the largest bodies of work on the human planet. And so if you watch a YouTube video where somebody says, oh, this will work, right, because they're an influencer, are you going to, like logically, like think about where the needle goes in your head. Are you going to believe that person because a lot of people in the comments go, this worked for me too? Or are you going to believe what accumulates to, if you take tens of thousands of medical professionals doing hundreds of thousands of hours of research, you've got millions and millions of hours of man hours and women hours contributing to a body of knowledge that disagrees with this thing.
Yes.
So, like, I know where I put my money, right? And it doesn't
On the
mean
science.
right? Yeah, right. And it doesn't mean that this person's wrong either. So it's not just defaulting to that because of the body of knowledge, but it means that maybe there's value to take out of both, but it's not one or the other. So you listen to this with a critical mind. It might just be that science hasn't figured out what this person's trying to say yet. But if science does have an opinion, that's also worth weighing up too, because science doesn't lie. It doesn't want to lie. It wants to be caught out, and so it's absolutely worth listening to.
Well, it's geared up to be caught out because that's how they succeed.
Yes.
And that's how they move forward.
Yep.
The one thing with social media, and you're talking about influencers and that anybody can go off and spout anything about any subject, and people will believe them.
Totally.
And they'll get likes and they'll get follows. And I could go on Insta today and spread some bullshit, which is a complete fabrication.
That's right.
I paid ads, I get 100,000 views, and I'm getting comments, oh yeah, I agree with you, mate, even though it's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's the trouble with the society that we live in today, is that people aren't equipped with the skills to filter out the bullshit.
Yes.
And if you go back to what we're talking about science, Ricky Gervais said it perfectly.
Yeah.
He said, if you take every holy book that's available right now and you burnt it, and you did the same with every science book that was available and you burnt it
Yep.
and got rid of it, in 1,000 years, what's going to come back? Every science book, because the science will prove itself over and over
Yes.
again. These same holy books or these same scriptures,
They'll be different.
They'll be different.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly. And, you kind of got to realize, like, historically, what's the function of religion, right? We didn't have tools. We hadn't discovered the scientific method, which is really just a way of thinking. It's, interrogating reality against our biases to figure out what's true. And we didn't have that yet because we came through evolution. We effectively we didn't just appear here, but we did come off the back of something less intelligent. And our first ancestors didn't have the language to even describe these ideas. So you look around and you go, oh, the sun, this thing in the sky, and it's hot, and and then some parts of the year the food grows, and other times it doesn't. And it's cold. When it's cold, life is hard, and when it's hot, and so you come up with explanations for this, and that's why all mythology is rooted in light and dark. When the sun's up, I can see, and it's safer, and the temperature's regulated. It's a nice place to be. At nighttime, it's cold and there's danger. And it all comes back to that. So religions serve this purpose of explaining that phenomena without a better tool and localizing it to your community so that there was a shared story that was easy to store in the minds of everybody. I'm going to go off on a slight tangent here, but as humans, we're storytellers.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And the reason for that is if you want to break this down to scientific method as well. You go, why are we storytellers? Why does fucking story matter? Why does the 3-act structure work? Like, why is beginning, middle, and end help? Well, obviously at some point through natural selection, which is just whatever works tends to stay around, people back in the day who communicated information in this format were more effectively able to get those ideas into the minds of the people around them. So if you have a tribe and you have elders and they have something to teach about survival and they're teaching a group of children, if they deliver the information in a way that's not sticky, the kids won't retain it, and then maybe there's a consequence to that. They'll go and make a stupid choice. They'll approach a lion and get eaten, right? And through trial and error, pure trial and error, without anybody realizing, some people started delivering information in a certain structure, and it worked because the people who received that structure survived, and our genes perpetuated towards storytelling. So we also have, this is an amazing tool, but it's also a problem now too, because if someone comes to you with a compelling story, right? Science doesn't go to great lengths to build a story around the facts. It can be cold and clinical. There's words
It's black or white, isn't it?
Yep. And there's words with large syllables.
Yep.
And it's hard for people to retain this because we're not wired for this. It's counterintuitive. And it kind of has to be that way because science isn't about telling stories, it's about fact. But then somebody comes out with a contradictory, view on it, and they tell you a compelling story or an anecdote. Oh, my cousin did this, and that's so much easier for your brain to understand and take that in. And in psychology, there's this idea of cognitive ease, which is the way your brain already works, information goes in more easily that way, and you experience ease of thought, and it's pleasurable. And there's cognitive discomfort when your brain is challenged to think in a different way because it takes more energy, and your brain doesn't want to use energy. So if somebody tells you a compelling story, it's easy to believe. That's the temptation. It's biology. It goes in more easily and you feel comfortable with that. And that's the scary thing, because right now we equate credibility to visibility. The more visible someone is online, the more credibility they have.
Exactly.
And that's a non sequitur, I think. It's like a non-argument. That doesn't make sense. And it's because of confidence. I'm speaking with confidence now. I could have just made up bullshit about how dexamphetamine works. It sounded pretty compelling, right? But you question me, you'll find it, right? I'm not talking shit, but I could be. And that's the point. You don't trust anything.
Well, see, that's the thing is I've got a good bullshit filter, whereas
Yep.
a lot of people don't have that.
Yep.
So I would have picked up. Matty would have picked up on it.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
my base. As you say, it's like branding. And that's the thing. Like with storytelling, is they say with branding is you've got to create the problem that the customers need your product for to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So you show them what the problem is, and then you go, hey, here's my product to solve your problem.
Yes.
Hence, you should buy it.
Yes.
And it's working on this theory that people, as you say, were consuming information easily and readily, and feeling some sort of connection to it.
Yes.
And some sort of binding agent where they go, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they consume.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a real shame because this taps into a whole other topic, which is cognitive biases. Have you ever read about cognitive biases specifically?
Look, I'm gonna be honest. No, I'm aware of it. I've heard of it,
Yep.
but I've never delved into it.
Total rabbit hole, right? And it's basically a laundry list of things that our brain doesn't do logically, that even if you know about them, you can't see them because it's to do with the architecture of how the brain evolved. But knowing them is half the battle, because even if you can change how you think and pull back from your habits and your automatic behaviors, even once in your life, that is one more moment where you are self-aware and control and could make a better choice, right?
Okay. Give me an example.
An example is, one of them is effectively what we were just talking about, these sorts of what's called heuristics, which is just like very well-worn automatic patterns. And one of them is cognitive ease. Information goes in more easily. Another one is what's called availability bias. Availability bias means the more readily available a thought is in your head, the more value you put on it. So your more recent experiences feel more true than things that happened more in the past.
Okay.
And they've proven this in studies. So one of the ways they do this is they will get students and they tell them that the study's for something else, right? Because you don't want to bias people. We're just going to give you a survey, right? And they get people to fill out one of the examples that, even if you look this up, this is the common example. Out of these 5 items, rank in order of what you think kills the most amount of people in accidents. And it'll be like plane crashes, car crashes, boats sinking, smoking, right? Or not even accidents, just what kills the most people.
Yep.
When it's a blind test and they haven't influenced the people at all, they get a pretty normal distribution of guesses, and it's kind of smattering because it's based on their own personal experience, so it's a little bit all over the place. If they put people in a waiting room before it and they show plane crashes on TV, people put plane crashes first.
Of course, which is actually probably one of the least to cause.
It is.
Exactly. It's the safest form of travel in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely, just by statistics.
Yeah.
And so people have, and this is where irrational fears come in. You have irrational fear of going on a plane. And this is how you know the brain doesn't, this is another bias, right? It's irrational. It doesn't work properly. Because if you drive to work every day on the freeway for 40 minutes or so, the chances of you being in a car accident that are maiming or fatal is not insignificant. And because you're doing it 5 days a week, every week for the year, you're putting your life at risk hundreds of times.
The ratio goes up.
Yeah, exactly. So you're playing Russian roulette with a 1 million chamber gun, right? But after 1 million days, there's a bullet in there somewhere, right? And so the more you do it, like it actually is squashing it's the chances, right? It's funneling it. Whereas you don't feel afraid of that, and so because you're used to it. It's normal. If you flew in a plane every day, you get used to it like pilots do. But it's an abnormal experience, so you put all this extra risk on it because you're not in control. But if you're afraid of getting on a plane to the point of having a panic attack, you should be having more of a panic attack when you get in your car every morning. That's what tells you there's something there to work on, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. There's also things like anchoring bias. So you can influence the way somebody thinks about the value of something by telling them what it was worth before the discount. And then they'll think the discount is relevant. So if I tell you that this convincingly this mug, this awesome mug that you guys have got here, is worth $500 because it's the only one left.
They should be
Yeah,
worth that much.
it's the only one left in Melbourne. It could be worth more, but the materials are porcelain. Someone could, but it's $500. It's abnormally expensive. And then I say, and I'll give it to you for $300. Do you think I'm saving $200?
Yeah, man.
That's anchoring bias. I just influenced, you think you're getting a deal, right? And marketers know this. They know this. I always thought back in the day, I'm like, why wouldn't you just inflate the price of your goods by 20% and just always have it at 20% off? And then people think there's a sale on all the time, but it's not, right? And I think there are laws that stop you doing that. But that's called anchoring bias. And there is just endless amounts of them that are more or less easy to understand. Some of them are really complicated. One is gambler's fallacy. Which is this idea that because a certain outcome has happened in a situation many times, that the next time it's more likely for the other thing to happen.
Right.
And in some cases, it's true. So if you have a deck of cards and the deck of cards stays persistent throughout the whole, you play multiple rounds of blackjack and you don't replace the deck of cards, every time a card's removed, it does influence the chances of what will happen next, because the card deck has a certain probability that those cards are still in there. But if you clear the deck away at the end of every round, it resets the probability. So if the last 3 games by random chance all hearts came out, you go, well, they're not going to come out in the next one. But actually it's the same probability.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's mutually exclusive. And so it's reset the odds. So if it happened those times, there's no reason why it can't happen the next time. And it's the same with, say, roulette, right? You go, the last 10 spins were black. The next one's got to have more chance of being red. But actually, every single time you spin it, I know there's green on there, but let's just pretend there wasn't. Every time you spin it, it's 50-50.
Yeah.
There could be a universe out there where after 1 million spins, it's always black. Because it's equal chance. Now, it probably won't. But you have no ability to predict it. But you go, I'm going to put it on here. It does. You have no more chance. But this is the human brain going, well, it has to be true. It's not. That's not true. And we make decisions based on that all the time, not just gambling, but we go, oh, look, the last 3 times I told someone how I felt, they got angry at me. So they'll definitely do that next time. It's not necessarily, I mean, people are more complex, so you can predict those behaviors. But let's say between two different people, you go, these people yelled at me, and then so I'm going to treat these people like they will as well. They're mutually exclusive. But you take your biases with you.
Tell you what, mate, you're making my brain fry.
Does this make sense? Yeah.
That makes perfect
Yeah.
sense. So I love these conversations, and I'm going to rethink the way I play blackjack and roulette now because of that.
Yeah. Well, the best thing you do is just have an entry strategy and an exit strategy in a game that's equally balanced. You can't control it, so you accept that and go with it and see what happens. There was another one I was going to mention as well. Oh, loss aversion. This is a really big one. So it's shown through studies as well that our sensation internally of loss is about 2 times more emotionally impactful than a win. And so if you win $100, you feel a certain amount of happiness. But if you lose $100, you feel about 2 times as intense in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And it changes how people will accept a bet. They'll say, so basically you go, I'm gonna give you a bet, and I'm probably gonna butcher this because it gets a little bit circular in your head. But you can look this up, and it will explain it better than me. I'm going to give you a bet that's framed in such a way that I say, if you get this right, you gain $100, or you gain $200, right?
Yes.
But if you get it wrong, you lose 100, right? It's 50-50. Like people will, there's actually an anchor point where they'll say, okay, well, $200 is actually twice. I'll feel twice as good about that as losing the 100. So that's roughly a 50-50 in your head, right? Because we feel twice as bad.
Yep.
So if you lose the 100, you probably feel equally as bad as getting the 200. People might 50-50. Some people will take that, some people won't. If you lower the risk, down, and it's disproportionate, people will take the gamble. But if it's too close, they won't, even though the outcome, there's ways where they frame this where the outcome is the same. So it's like you have $100, and if you win, you get to keep it, and if you lose, you lose it. But I gave you the $100, so you're in the same net position with the same net risk, and people will take it if it's worded this way, and they won't take it if it's worded that way.
That's how the betting companies work.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They give you free money to play with.
Yep.
That's how that philosophy works.
Yep.
But if my son's listening, and I've probably told him this before, don't gamble unless you can afford to lose it.
Sure.
Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Simple as that. If you've got $100 to lose, once it's gone, it's gone. Walk away.
100%. And it's the same with investing. I encourage people to invest in the stock market. ETFs, it's very easy. It's just a basket of goods. You don't have to think. But I've had people go, oh, if I put all my money in there, I'm gonna feel really nervous. I'm like, then don't put all your money in there. And they're like, oh, I want to put. Someone told me to put 10 grand in there, but I feel nervous. Okay, how about 8 grand? I still feel a bit nervous. How about 4? That feels okay. That's your number, right? Everyone has their own risk.
Everybody's got a number, haven't they?
Right? Yeah. So put it in there. If you're looking at it every day and you're stressing, that's you put too much, right? Some people, 500 grand's nothing.
Yeah.
To you, it might be next week's $200 that you could spend on going out, and maybe that feels like too much risk, right? So you just got to know your risk. And just finally on biases, something I've been learning a lot about recently, which is just in personal life, is attachment styles that people have in relationships. And this is a huge bias area. And, people can be anxious or avoidant. And you tend to get people coupled together who could be anxious and avoidant. And an anxious partner will lean in and put pressure on the other partner. And if the other one's avoidant, they'll lean back and go, you're pressuring me. And then they lean in harder and harder and harder. And that's how you see this dynamic all the time, right?
Interesting.
And people don't realize this is happening, that previous attachment wounds have led them to feel anxious because people leave and I've done something wrong, and so you overcompensate. And people who are avoidant go, people smother me, so I need to be on my own.
Yeah.
And people chase each other around. And then there's a rarer one, it's a mix of both. And the hard thing is people don't realize this is happening, and your brain does a whole bunch of mental gymnastics to justify why you're acting this way. So I always think about this too, and just in terms of brain activity, right? Emotions predated logic. So our ability to think right now and talk, and for me to know your name and you to know my name, it's all at the front of the brain. It's the newest part of the brain. Where emotions driven is midbrain and also at the base of the brain. It's older. It has more control over your actions than your logic. So emotions happen, and then logic comes next. It's more complex, and it takes more work. So what always happens is something happens in my life. Someone says something, or I see something happen, and I feel something. And again, the storytelling part of us, the logic, then my awareness kicks in, and I go, that happened because. Now, depending on my life experience, what follows because could be accurate, or it could be wildly off in the trees, right? So somebody doesn't call you when they said they were going to call you back, and you are an anxious person, and you say, they didn't call me back because they don't care about me, right? And then, that can cause all kinds of extra complexity that's self-fulfilling. So you then snub them the next time they call, and then they feel like something's wrong, right? And then they don't contact you again because they're feeling, and then you go, I knew that they didn't care about me because now they're not reaching out at all.
The cascade.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and people don't realize they're doing it, and it's really sad. And it's hard because people will manufacture narratives because they go, well, I feel like this. So let's say you said something to me now, this is an example I use, and it offended me and I felt angry. The common line of thought is, you're wrong about what you just said, because if you weren't, I wouldn't feel angry at you. Right, so it's
fair enough.
It's justifying it based on how I feel.
Of course.
But that's got nothing to do with what you said. You could say something that was absolutely accurate and I just took offense to it, and that's on me. That's my internal interpretation. Now, here's the tricky part. If somebody's sitting there and they say, I see what's happening here, and you've misinterpreted that, I go, you're gaslighting me. Because you're telling me something about my own feelings and you're trying to manipulate my reality. But and so there's a real gray area there, because gaslighting is a really bad thing that people do, right?
Yeah, of course.
But how do you tease the difference between someone's misinterpreted something for real, and you need to do what's called reality testing and go, are you sure? And therapists deal with this all the time. And them going, well, this is the way I believe it happened, and because you're trying to change that, you're being toxic. And that's a trap. There's a trap there. And I just think that's something I've noticed more recently, and it's really sad, and it's hard to help people. You can only really try to cut through it and go, I think you need to, it would be really helpful for you to maybe look at therapy, and it's not for me to tell you, but I think it would be very helpful for you. I've been to therapy. It's great. It's just, we spend a lot of our lives being chased around up here, and it helps to know.
I think the big thing is that there's not a lot of self-awareness. A lot of people don't have a lot of self-awareness, and whether that's just how you're thinking internally or how you're dealing with or managing life, but also dealing with other people, because you interact with people all the time, whether it's a partner or whether it's family, and this not realizing how your actions or their actions impact you and how you process them. Because as you say, sometimes you can internally just compact it and it comes out as an irrational action.
Yeah.
Which is not healthy for anybody involved.
That's right. So
this I'm a big believer in the conscious awareness about how I fit in the fucking in the whole thing. How
am I contributing to my own experience?
My ecosystem, everything that's around me. Like, I can say stuff on purpose to affect somebody to elicit a reaction. I can quite easily do that. Sometimes it brings me joy. It's not healthy sometimes.
Yeah.
But sometimes also I can not realize that somebody's misconstrued a joke or a quip or something. And if I don't understand that that's how they've taken that, I can't appropriately address that when it's given back to me.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we get caught in these mutual feedback loops. Yeah. And so the self-awareness thing, I don't know if what you're describing there's an official term, metacognition. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah, so metacognition, right, which is just meta meaning outside of and cognition meaning thought. And it's just your ability to think about your own thoughts. And you will still fail, even if you've been taught to do that. Because when your emotions pass the threshold, again, for the front of the brain is way harder to run, and it makes us tired. So the first thing that gets cut when you're overwhelmed is that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's impossible to slam the brakes on. But you can learn to do it sometimes. And again, that just puts you way ahead, not of other people, but of yourself, right? It's the ability to go, okay, what the example I gave you before, you said something and it made me angry. Instead of just feeling the anger and going, oh, fuck you, man, like that was wrong, I step back and I go, he said something and then I felt anger. I'm tracing it in real time. And I'm going, that's not necessarily how it was meant to come across. So I need to check actually and ask for clarification. I can check with you and say, how did you mean that?
Well, yeah, exactly. You automatically say, what did you mean by that? Or can you explain why you said that?
Yeah, I'm feeling, sorry if I look tense right now, I'm feeling a little bit upset about what you said. Can we talk about it? Yeah. And it's amazing how many problems can go away with a conversation.
Of course. It's
incredible, because what happens when you get stuck here is the reality testing doesn't happen, which is inputs from the outside. You go quiet and the narrative spins. And we all know that when you think of something too much, it feels really huge. And if you sit and talk, you're getting reality testing naturally from other people, and it actually quietens that down.
Yeah.
And but you know, it's hard because sometimes you're like, let's just talk about this, and people don't want to, and that could be tragic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the opposite of that is ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Exactly.
right.
Hey, Matty, I've got there's a video of me, like when things
Another
get,
one.
Well, look, things get a little bit stressful in my life, and you know sometimes I've just got to relax.
Yep.
Have you got that one of me? I've got a really nice sun.
You have a tan. You had a tan in this one.
Yeah.
What are you about to do?
I'm about to roll up.
You rolling another one?
Yeah.
Oh. Why? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Why?
Oh. I mean, I don't think it's necessary.
Nigga, you about to cry?
No. I mean, I'm already high. How much higher are you trying to get?
This boy high.
Yeah, take me home.
This is so real for him.
Take me home, mate.
That's
We're
great.
going to take a break, mate. Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by Holy Shirt Australia. Holy Shirt Australia are 100% online. They're Australia's largest no minimum custom print and embroidery company. All their services are completed in-house and they can deliver all orders promptly and professionally. They like to keep it simple and straightforward, so they offer cool stuff that can be custom printed or embroidered to your liking. They have an easy-to-use online designer to build your custom apparel from the comfort of your home or office. They offer pricing that reflects your individual order, and remember, they are no minimum on all their products. They deliver what the customer expects when they expect it. They've got over 1,500 products ready for you to custom print or embroider today, right now. So head to holyshirt.com.au for all your custom clothing requirements.
Like you've done the work. That's what it looks like.
It has.
So.
It's been 52 fucking years.
Yeah.
Hey, mate.
Work in progress.
Have you ever had buckfast before?
I haven't, no, but I remember you mentioned it actually on the phone. So
Well,
I'm
there
excited.
you go, mate. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to buckfast. Cheers
Cheers.
to Joe and Rob at Chapel Street Cellars.
Yep.
So this is fortified wine.
Yep.
It's a tonic wine, and it's got more caffeine than Red Bull. So
Oh, really?
yeah, you didn't need to take your meds today.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, totally. What's going to happen to me? Let's watch.
Mate,
I'll
try
probably
it. It's
implode.
fantastic. Oh, it sounds good too.
Oh,
You like that?
it's actually really easy to drink.
Isn't it?
I love coffee, right? So it's got a kind of, I don't know, it's got an earthiness to it that just reminds me of that, but with the wine sort of underneath.
Yeah. So it's 15%. What they actually do is I'm pretty sure they take the grape juice and they add the alcohol to it. So
Yep.
it's not a wine that's actually been fermented.
Right.
And then they add the caffeine as well too.
Yeah,
So,
right.
Yeah. Originally made by monks that were chased out of France and ended up in the UK.
Right.
It's
It's got a history.
yeah, it's got a lot of history.
Love that. That's
We're
so good.
we're happy to have them as sponsors, to be quite
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
good product, and I don't think we've had one guest that's turned their nose up at it.
Where can I get some?
I'll give you a bottle before we walk out the door.
Oh, incredible. Amazing.
As I said, you got to go through the gift shop to get out.
Yeah. That's very true. Very true.
Hey, we've got a new segment this year. It's called Dead or Alive.
Uh-huh.
What's our first video here, Matty? I mean, you get the idea, don't you?
I think so. I mean, I'm about to find out.
Oh, what do we got here? What do we got here? Having a bit of fun on the top of a bus by the looks of it. And yep,
Oh.
knew that was going to happen.
If only she was a head higher, it would have hit the airbags.
Well, which exactly? She's got big airbags. We've backed it up. I don't reckon this. You reckon that's a fake, eh, man?
I feel like it's a fake.
It is, because look, there's a shadow on the top of the seat there.
Yep.
Just see where they've taken her fun bags away from the top of the seat.
Yeah,
You see
yeah.
it? Yeah.
I feel like it's the setup's a little too obvious as well.
Oh, surely she can see what's coming down
Totally.
the road.
There's no one else
Yeah.
up there. Someone happens to be filming. They change angles right before it happens. Like, come on.
Well, look, I hope they got a few views out of that, because
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
we've just given them a few more.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say nice fun bags. What else have we got, man?
Step in opening your pool is taking the cover off. Yeah, you gotta get the cover off if you're gonna swim in it, but you want to have fun doing it. All right, here.
see
how
where
you
this is
do it,
going.
then have fun, baby. Here.
He just wants to have some fun, mate. That's
He's about to have the most fun of his life.
I love it how he's singing. Like a 2-year-old kid would do, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
This is almost poetic, the way he's going about this.
All right, here we go. Cover
Oh,
up the pool
God.
pan.
It's like some jackass. Oh. Oh, man. I didn't see that coming. Originally, I thought he's going to jump on the thing and it's going to collapse on him in the water.
Oh, that's
But
that's the catchphrase of this segment. I did not see that coming.
Oh, man. Like, just the ladder thing caught me off guard. Now that it's happened, I'm like, of course that was going to happen. It's not fucking supported at all.
So
the
he's-
way his leg hit, oh, man.
And his back's broken in half.
Oh, shit.
And he's in the pool upside down.
Yeah, yeah. I reckon he's live. I reckon he's alive, but I don't think he's very happy.
Yeah, he did survive. He did survive.
He did, yeah.
Multiple injuries. Oh dear.
Hopefully it was worth the content.
Oh, I'm sure he got a few views. So apparently this is a gas station in Chechnya.
Oh, right.
Chechnya, where
That's scary. That's scary
isn't
shit.
it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be within a kilometre of that.
And you're just like, what if it, I mean, the pressure's probably high enough to keep it out, but you're always like, what if it just climbs in the pipe, right? And
Well, because all the
Goes for it.
tanks are underneath the ground, aren't they? So
yeah.
it's-
Yeah. Yeah, oh, there you go.
Jesus.
Whoa.
And look at the tanker.
Holy shit. That's wild. I mean, that would be cool to see from a distance, but that's fucking insane. And just the
Wow.
wah in the background. Wow. I mean, that person caught a really opportune moment leaning out of the window. Hey,
Didn't
that's
they?
full
Didn't they?
on.
Now keep that playing, Matty, because there's I think we've got another angle of it, which is just as insane.
Hopefully no one was caught in that.
Unfortunately, there was.
Really?
Yeah.
Like firefighters or...
No, children.
Shit, really?
Yeah. Look at that.
Wow. I never caught that. I didn't see this. That almost looks fake, doesn't it? Like special effects, kind of, like a movie.
Yeah,
But,
no,
but
that's-
that's insane.
That is real. That's real. Yeah, unfortunately, 2 adults and I think 4 children. So
That's really sad.
if you ever looked, when we backed it up, we looked at the tanker that rolled down that thing.
Yeah.
There were actually kids standing outside.
Right.
You can see next to that car.
So did the tanker take him out, did it?
I think that they said in the section there that it was two adults and 4 kids got killed.
Damn. I mean, that is... I don't believe in fate, right? But like, you look at a situation like that and it feels like, oh, your number was up, because that you would not expect, being at that distance, that a projectile that size with that force would come right where you are.
No.
That's
no.
crazy.
That's when you know your number's up, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
When shit like that happens.
It's really
That's
sad.
unfortunate. Look, we don't like to show actual
Of
people
course.
dying.
Oh, no, of course not.
But
Yeah,
it
of
was,
course.
it just shows you, as you say, when your number's up, your number's up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Life can be freakishly random.
Jesus Christ, what have we got? We've got one more, I think, Maddie. What have we got here?
Ready?
Oh, bit of a firework. He's got gloves on, which is good.
But he's going to hold it.
Yeah.
That's always how it goes. You go, oh, it didn't work. Oh, God. Shit.
Yeah, his hand's
Oh,
gone, all
damn.
right.
That happened to my mate's dad a long time ago when I was early teens. They would go forward driving and camping and stuff, and they used to get pretty rowdy. And they made a homemade explosive, and it was like petrol and stuff in some container, and it had a wick on it. And he was holding it back, and he was like, "Someone light it, and I'll throw it." And as he threw it, as it passed his head, it exploded in his
Oh,
hand.
fuck.
And it blew his hand to pieces. All he had after that was his thumb, luckily, and a little bit of his pinky kind of hung on. He lost all the middle of his hand. And luckily he ran his own business, he's a motor mechanic, and he had other people working for him. And so he was professionally unaffected, but his hand, like, and it was very, he changed which hand he would shake hands with.
course.
And his son, my friend, was there, and he said he saw the whole thing and he said he screamed like you just don't know how people can scream when something really serious happens.
Well, that was guttural, wasn't it? I think that sums it
Dread,
up.
terror. It's like like you're dying basically. And when it blew up, because it was petrol and it sprayed, when he screamed, he inhaled flames and he burned his lungs and everything. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's full on, man. It's like, I've fucked around with stuff, but
Haven't we all?
oh man, it could go bad. It only has to go bad once, right?
Yeah.
I remember one time on the way to work when I was living in that party house that I mentioned before, and I worked with my mate. We were going to work, and he was driving, and I had a tiny little firecracker this big. I can't remember where I got it from. It was just still sitting around, and it was like 7 a.m, and I just wound the window down when he was driving, and I lit it, and just threw it out the window. I pinched it and just like threw it out the window of the car, and it popped just at the end of my hand, and I felt even that close, a tiny shockwave felt like it almost bruised my hand. And I got gunpowder back in my eye, and my eye was watering all day.
Oh, dear.
And I was like, all right, I'm not, even that, like, nah, I'm not doing that again.
Well, the old days back in NZ, because we've got what they call Guy Fawkes, which is an annual holiday. Guy Fawkes was apparently blew up Parliament. Don't quote me.
The movie with Hugo Weaving, I think. What is it? Remember the 5th of November. I think that's
5th of November, which is Guy Fawkes Day in New Zealand. I don't know whether it's a New Zealand and Australian thing, but definitely growing up as a kid.
Yep.
Yeah, we used to go down, and they only used to sell fireworks like a week prior, and that was the law. And then I think they've gotten rid of it altogether now, or you can only get rockets or something. It's just fucking lame.
Yeah,
Not like the good old days.
All the fun's gone.
They were called pohars, which are the pohars, the red firecrackers, about this big and about this round. And you used to just light them and throw them. And the shit that we used to do. I remember being at my brother's 21st, and we had a box of those ones that shoot the balls out.
Yep.
So I had my brother up against the hedge, like shooting balls at him, just laughing.
I've seen the
our
ball
tits
ones.
off.
I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. It's things have definitely changed, and I guess population density when it increases, just like driving on the road every day we were talking about before, just increases the chances that bad things will keep happening, and then it eventually, like, if someone ruins it basically, or there's an accident. In year 7, actually, a mate of mine that I just met when I started, maybe 6 months in, he could get fireworks, and he brought crackers to school. And it was a long one like this, and I'd never seen one like this where it doesn't have a wick. It just has almost like a wax cap, and they're waterproof. You can strike them and throw them in the water.
Oh, cool.
And
Blow fish up.
Yeah, that's right. And it was a triple banger, so it had like 3 tiers, and so it would go bang, bang, bang. And this is, again, the undiagnosed ADHD, which makes a lot of sense, because otherwise I was pretty placid, pretty reasonable. Like, you could probably tell from my temperament, I'm not like an angry fighter or anything like that. But I would do shit like this, mischievous stuff. And I just went to the locker bay when it was a peak time, and we had the largest year 7 group in the Southern Hemisphere at that time. It was like over 360 kids.
Wow.
Or 375 kids. And this is like late 90s. And I just lit it and threw it on top of the lockers. And it just went, people just screaming and running everywhere. And I still don't know who, but someone saw it, and the coordinators approached us, and we got in huge fucking trouble, obviously. Super illegal. And then my mate Steve they were like, where did you get it? And then he's worried about ratting out his family connection and all this stuff. And we got suspended, and I was pretty avoidant back then, so I faked a sickie on that day. I was meant to go in for suspension, and I stayed home, and they never followed me up.
Oh, really?
Yep, never followed me up.
You fell through the cracks.
Yeah, and then I remember about 4 years later, I was in year 10, I kept the form in my room, and my mum was cleaning my room one day, and she found it, and she goes, what is this? Did you get suspended? And I lied to her. I thought on my feet quickly. I was like, I had an after school, I had to stay back. I had after school detention, and they ran out of detention forms, so they gave me a suspension form. And she was like, okay. I was like, I told her in my adult life, because you learn I shouldn't be afraid of that. But when you're younger, you're like, I'm going to cop it.
For sure. Well played.
Yeah. And then I got older, and I was like, did you remember that? She doesn't remember it. I'm like, well, because it was a non-moment for her. But I'm like, I totally lied about that.
I think the message there is it's only fun until somebody loses an eye, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Exactly.
Hey, we're talking at the break, or prior to going to break. We've got here in the notes that you've given me about interests, biology, chemistry, physics. And one of the ones that stuck out for me was, I'm going to mispronounce this.
You were pronouncing it before.
I know. Existentialism.
That's it.
Existentialism.
Yeah.
I have been practicing that.
Nailed it.
To be quite honest, look, I like to think I'm a pretty smart guy. Prior to seeing this and reading this, I had no knowledge of or had no awareness of this this word, what it means. So I Googled it, of course. Existentialism. Existentialism is a physiological movement that explores the meaning of human existence, emphasizing individual freedom and responsibility in a world that is often perceived as absurd or meaningless. It suggests that individuals are responsible for creating their own meaning and purpose rather than having it preordained. I said to you that I'd always struggled with why I'm here. What's the purpose? What's the purpose? I've had, in my long journey, I've had, I'd say that I'd have a few moments in my life that I can look back and go, they were pivotal. Something changed in me. One of those moments was actually when my brother gave me a copy of The Alchemist. Have you? You were the?
I've heard of it. It's been recommended to me. There's probably a mate of mine who knows Elijah as well, who'll be listening to this, going, "I've told you to fucking read that ever since we met." It's on my list, it's just buried on there. But I've heard of it. I think it's quite well known in the space. Like, a lot of people really talk highly of it.
Definitely. So it's a Brazilian author, Paulo Coelho. I know people are going to be screaming at me for the mispronouncing it.
Any Brazilians out there?
Exactly.
Portuguese.
I was given it and read it. I think I took away from that probably something a little bit slightly different to what you should have taken away from it.
Okay. Yeah.
The basis, the structure of it. Like it's if you're unfamiliar with, I'll give you a rundown, a synopsis.
Yeah, please.
Well, so The Alchemist, a shepherd's journey to find himself, not just treasures. This is a 1 minute summary. So the classic novel follows Santiago, a shepherd yearning for an adventure. A reoccurring dream of Egyptian pyramids sparks a quest for buried treasure. But The Alchemist is more than just a treasure hunt. It's a physiological journey of self-discovery. Through challenges and encounters with a wise king and an alchemist, Santiago learns the importance of listening to his heart and following his personal legend, his life's true calling. He discovers the treasure isn't material, but the wisdom gained along the way. That pretty much sums that up. And that was what I took. I took that away, obviously understanding how it was playing out. I don't think I was lost to the point where this was going to save me.
Sure.
But it gave me perspective on maybe what else was on offer out there, and whether I was actually understanding what it was and how it was going to benefit me, and not just living in this ecosystem that I created for myself.
Sure.
So as I said, going back and harking back to that fuck.
It is a bit of it's a trippy sort of a word. It's a tongue tie sort of a word.
As I said, I've struggled with the thought of what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah.
And it's like, even to the point where I've explained it previously. I don't delve into stuff that's got anything to do with the universe or the planets or the vastness.
I think you'd probably enjoy some of that, maybe. If we had a conversation, I reckon you'd.
The thing is that it scares me, the vastness of it all.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like, well, how the fuck is it all? How the fuck is it all here, and how does it all work? I'm not religious. I'm not looking for divine intervention.
Sure.
I don't think that's going to quell my desire to have some sort of peace in this life.
Sure.
But I still feel and wonder, what's my purpose?
Sure. I think it's the age-old question, isn't it? What's my purpose? And we're talking about other purposes of religion before to make sense of the world, but it has also tried to solve that problem for people and give everybody a kind of unified, within a community, a unified sense of purpose that ties people together. And I think that probably helped keep people social ties, right? There's a group identity, and that's also why it's very tempting to grab onto it. And in the modern age, I think we're kind of torn between that still being around and science, which we were talking about before. And then there's philosophy kind of around the edges. But I don't think, I think if people decouple from religion like I have, I was raised Catholic just because it was a default thing My family's not like all about it or anything, but it's casual. I call it casual Catholicism. And then I discovered science, and I was like, oh shit, this is the thing, right? This tries to explain stuff, and you go into that, and then you kind of come out the other end and think, well, science doesn't really go, like I was saying before, to the level of creating a story for people to actually use to make sense of things. So you go, what does it mean that my cells metabolize phosphorus? What does that mean? I learned that's fact. Like, what does that mean? What does that tell me about myself? Science just goes, well, you figure that out, right? And we have all these schools of thought that you can go and find yourself, but unless it's brought to you, how do you know what you're looking for? And it's interesting you were saying that the scale of the universe and the planets feels a little bit scary. I've had a couple of people, because I love talking about that stuff, and I've had a couple of people, my cousin's wife, reacted the same. She's like, I don't want to talk about that. It feels too much. It's too big. And do you know Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Of course.
Yeah,
love
amazing.
him. Love him.
Did you see the Cosmos series that he did?
I've seen some of it.
Yep.
Once again, he intrigues me because he's a very smart man.
Yep.
And I like hearing and being educated by him. But there's also this stuff that I don't want to know, because what it does is it tweaks that inner thought of, well, you still don't understand. How can you understand and make sense of it all?
Sure.
And then he's adding another layer on top of that again.
Of course.
You know, once again, that going back to that ignorance is bliss scenario.
Of course.
You know, it's like certain things I don't want to know about.
Sure.
You know? And it doesn't hurt me to not know about it.
For sure.
But the internal struggle I have is that I know the vastness of space.
Yes.
I know everything's cyclical.
Yep.
Everything has a start, everything has an end, even stars, as we talked about. You know, so once again, just thinking about that, and it's not a doomsday type scenario. The one thing that I struggle with bipolar is I know when I'm depressed when I think about death.
Yeah, sure.
And death is final.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
There's no fucking second go.
It's impossible to
And I'm not trying to offend anybody that's religious or has beliefs. That's not my intention.
Of course.
But I understand being of sound mind and body, and being smart enough to know in my own self that it's gonna end. There's gonna be an end point.
Yes.
Lights out.
Yep.
Good night, nurse.
That's right. Yeah.
That's it.
100%. And so what I was going to mention before with Neil deGrasse Tyson, what he touched on is he said some people, he called this out, he said some people, this is really scary for them. He said, they like their universe to be small. And then he just talked about his own stuff. He's like, I like mine big. And I'm of his school of thought, so this will be interesting for us to kind of trade ideas here. And the reason why I tell you I like it big as possible, because it makes everything going on in my life feel very small. And it's a nice place to...
Small or insignificant?
Small and insignificant.
Yeah?
Yeah, because the things in my head that I deal with every day feel like they fucking are the most important thing in the world and existence, because I live in the story of my own head. My name's Michael. I have this job. I have to deliver these KPIs. I have to pay tax. And these are all just bullshit things that are here when I was born, and I just found them here, and then I'd go, oh, this is me, right? But if I'm born 1,000 years from now, who knows? It could be a completely different type of way of living or thinking, right? And the vastness of space helps me with a very practical, tangible piece of evidence. Go, this is the tiniest little piece of dust. And even and my ideas are smaller than that even. I mean, and so you can let go of ideas, and my problems are even smaller than those. So it helps me kind of go, well, I'm a part of something much bigger than the shit that I tell myself, right? And everybody's in that same boat, and it's a great equalizer. And I'll give you, I know, are you okay for me to talk about how I think about it? Because you're like, I don't want to know.
No, for sure,
Right,
for sure.
let's do
As you
that.
say, let's battle it out, mate. Let's do it.
Let's do that. So there's a scientific view, which again, cold and factual, and talks about the scale and the scope and speeds and time and all this kind of crazy stuff, black holes, time dilation, Einstein's theory of relativity, all this stuff. And it all describes bits and pieces, right? And then you're kind of left with all these facts. And again, science doesn't go, here's a nice way of thinking about it so that it doesn't feel like too much, right? Or how can you relate to it as a human? And you realize, I think there's a gap there, actually. And so a lot of the work I've done internally is, how do I take meaning out of this? How do I stick a syringe in these facts and suck meaning out of it, right? And so what I've come to realize, and this gets a little more spiritual, but I can back it up scientifically as well, is that this gets a little abstract, but what we call the universe, it's a word, right? universe, 3 syllables. It's an idea. I say it to you and you have a model in your head. You can read a definition in a dictionary. Now, what that tells me is if we could press a button and every human disappeared, there's no such thing as a universe anymore, because the universe was an idea that we came up with, just like religion, to explain what we see. The Earth, is this called the Earth? That's what we call it. That's a name we came up with, right? It's an idea. A planet is an idea. What's a planet? It's a bunch of stuff stuck together under gravity that has an atmosphere, and maybe it doesn't have an atmosphere, right? But it's of a certain size and magnitude and mass, right? These are all models that we have in our heads. A dog doesn't think, I am on the Earth. I am in the universe, right? These are foreign concepts. So is the dog in the universe? Well, he's in your universe, but he's not in his head. That's not where he exists, right? Because that dog does not have these models and this language and this way to explain things. So then you realize, well, and all of science fits into this. It's all just stuff humans came up with, right? That we can convey to each other and we can think about. And it's our brain, it's a product of our brains and the way our brains work. So outside of my head, so my hand is out here in space. In this position of the universe, outside of my brain, where's the universe? There's nothing here to think about it, unless I move my head to that position, and now there's a mind there to consider that that's where it is. So the universe is in my head, right, in a very real way. Because what my body does fundamentally is we have senses, the 5 senses, everybody knows about these. What's the job of that? It sucks in data from the environment. Temperature, smells, taste, photons in my eyes, right? That help me render this room. And why does that even matter? Well, because it's useful, helps me survive. I can get up and walk across the room without banging into something and dying, right? That's why I can see. That's why vision is so important. But all of this room is in my head. Color is in my head, right? You're in my head. You're an idea. I'm building a model of you as we get to know each other. And so if I die, and we'll talk about death and existentialism, all this is gone. Where does the universe go when I'm dead? Well, it's gone. There's no me to go, I'm outside of it now. So what's outside of our heads is space and some kind of reality or environment. What's flying around this room right now is energy and photons just bouncing around. But there's no room until there's an eye in here to catch the light and turn it into something and go, that's a room. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've realized that science says the universe is 13.8 billion years old, roughly. The reason why we say that, that's the oldest light we can measure from the farthest edges. So we go, well, if it took that long to get here and we can't get older light, that must be where it started.
Yep.
That's pretty reasonable, right? But then again, if it's been around for 15 billion years, there'd be 2 billion years of light on the other side that still hasn't got to us yet, which is why the universe looks like it's growing. Because if it's too far away, it hasn't been enough time for us to see it yet. It's just black. So it could be even larger than that, right? But it's a pretty good way of thinking about it. But actually what that's describing is the environment, whatever that is, stuff, just shit flying around, bumping into each other, coalescing, exploding, making structures. Then a little planet formed and it had the right conditions and biology started and humans evolved out of the back of that. And then there's me and I wake up and I'm born one day, and when I'm born, my brain switches on and all this data fucking pours in. From nowhere before that. Before that moment, there was nothing. So the universe, as we think about it, started the day you were born. You were saying before you're 53. The universe you live in is 53 years old. Mine's 38 years old. And wherever I get to, that's when the universe ends. Whatever is here that feeds the idea of the universe, data, will keep going.
That still doesn't make me feel any better, mate. I think it makes me feel worse knowing that.
It doesn't really, I'm sorry.
Yeah, knowing that, as you say, when I cease to exist, the universe ceases to exist. Although it still continues for people that are left here.
Yes, they have their own.
That's the trouble. That's the hard thing about death, it's the only people that it affects are the people that are left behind.
That's right.
Not the person that's died.
That's right. I've heard, so if I could keep my pitch going for a moment to see if I can make it.
I'm still listening, mate. I'm not
make it-
poo-pooing anything
Yeah,
you're
no,
saying.
of course.
I'm not poo-pooing.
This is the great challenge of communication, is trying to sort of go, how can I get the way it makes sense to me across to someone else so you go, oh, I can also feel how you feel about it.
I do fully understand.
Yeah, of course.
I do fully understand.
It's
but
the
what I'm
feeling
saying,
associated.
Yeah, so just what you're telling me and your reality of how you perceive it
Yep.
and how you think it's going to play out,
Yep.
I'm consuming that and I'm relating that to my own thoughts
Yes,
about
of
this.
course.
As I said, it's the finite thing
Yep.
that gets me.
Of course.
It's finite. It
Yep.
stops. It
Yep.
ends, right? And then I cease to exist.
Yes.
That's the problem I have.
And this is so existentialism and philosophy is kind of an antidote to that too, because what you're talking about ending, and I don't want it to end either, right? Like I'm attached to this. I want to wake up every day for forever, right? But it's also an idea that like I'm this thing that's separate inside of the universe, and like I walk around and bump into stuff, and I'm trying to protect myself from it at all times, and then I'm gone. Well, the pattern that I associate with myself and other people do that will change, and when I pass away, it will change into something that doesn't look like me anymore, right? The stuff I'm made out of will be distributed, and the sand that I came out of will go back and other things will come out. So in a sense, this is kind of an illusion, and this is where you start to get really abstract. That I have a sense of self, but also here's a really interesting factoid. Do you know Richard Dawkins?
No, not familiar.
Great guy, incredible. He's written amazing books. He's getting a little bit older now. He's a biologist. I think he's a professor at Oxford. He's English. Written amazing books, and all about. He's a biological evolutionist. That's his job. And in a talk that he gave, which I saw online a long time ago, there was something that stuck. You know, you watch things or you have a conversation, and there's always maybe one or two things that stick with you forever. And he was talking about how every 7 years, every atom in your body is completely replaced through digestion, through losing skin cells, through going to the toilet, right? And when you eat food, you're replacing the material. So he goes, we know this is true. So think about that for a second. And what I want you to do is think back to a memory that you have from your life that's more than 7 years ago. Think about it. Hold it in your head. Pretend that you were there, because you were there. But then what we've just realized is that you weren't. Nothing that's sitting in the chair today thinking about that memory that you're made of was there for that memory. You're already constantly being rebuilt all the time. So you're not stable or static, right? And so he talks about this, and he says, you know, none of this was meant to happen. None of us were meant to be here. It's against all odds. We're talking about probability of like betting on roulette before, right? And we're talking about 50-50.
I understand the odds of me being right here now or being born are very fucking high.
Yes.
I understand the concept of that.
Yep.
We are lucky.
Yes.
If you want to use that word lucky.
Yes.
Lucky is not a
We are
scientific
lucky.
term.
We are lucky.
It's not a
You're right.
scientific term. But you're right. The chances of us not being here
Yep.
are fucking astronomical.
Totally.
The chances that we are here are even more astronomical.
Yes. And you know, the collective, like even for life to have started astronomically, it's just incalculably tiny, right? Like there has to be a universe to begin with. Like why should there be one, right? And then there has to be the right stuff, and then time has to happen, and you know, and then even when there's life started and there's humans on this planet, there's a lineage all the way back to the oldest Homo sapiens, and the right things happened so that you were born. And I was born, and we were born in close enough proximity that we're sitting here talking to each other, and this is amazing, right? Yeah. We should all be looking around all the time going, this is fucking wild. And we are lucky. And Richard Dawkins, at the end of his talk, said, you know, a lot of us want to know what happens after death, because he's a biologist. He says there's likely nothing, like what you're saying. And he said, you know, the fact that we are here to begin with, the sheer probability that you are here sitting in this chair and you get up and you're allowed to wake up every day and brush your teeth, and it's not somebody else there instead of you. He goes, most people who could exist will never be born. And yet here are you and I in our ordinariness, and we get to exist. So who are we to ask for more? We already have everything, right? That rang out like a fucking bell. It's like, that's true, right? And there's an emotional tie to it, but also it shouldn't have happened. So the thing that matters is the moment in between. It's this incredible piece of something that nobody can explain. And we won the lottery ticket. We won every fucking lottery you could ever imagine just to sit here and talk and have this drink, and even more lucky than other parts of the world where people can't sit in a nice air-conditioned room and have good conversations, right? We're educated, we know things, we can have these moments. We're even luckier, even then, just to exist with where we are in our lives, right? That's worth celebrating. It is.
I think that just summed up Lewid, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think in a nutshell.
For sure.
I think
The whole
that's our new mantra.
Yeah, well, there you go. And Carl Sagan, who I'm very big on, he was a cosmologist at NASA, he said something to this effect. I'm not going to quote directly, but that there was the Big Bang for all we know, and there's this huge rupture, and matter and gas and everything exploded out energy, right? And over time, it cooled and it changed structures to support life. And eventually one day it might not anymore. It might change and things are too far apart and it gets really cold and that's it. But so what's happening is life is the dance that matter is doing through an explosion.
The dance.
Yeah. So there's we watched an explosion just before and there's like tendrils that wisp off.
Yes.
So the universe exploded and on one of those tendrils is us. And it's just unfolding and it will change again and it will become something else, right? And so we get to be the breakdown of this incredible explosion, the dance of the particles in between, right? It's sort of like ephemeral. So ephemeral is like, things that are short-lived, that don't last forever. And think about the idea of a dance. Before the dance, there's no dance. After the dance, there's no dance. The dance, the tango, is an idea in your head, but it happens while the two people are doing it. That's the bit that matters. And when it stops, the dance doesn't exist anymore. You can do it again, right? But what matters is what's in the middle, and that's what life is. And the meaning is there is no meaning. You get to make up your own. You're the artist with the canvas of your own existence. You paint whatever, and that meaning can shift. Your meaning today might be deliver incredible messages to people all around the world with your podcast, and 10 years from now, you might have a different meaning. And there's a certain amount of comfort to try to get to with sitting with that, I think, and that's the hard bit. But that's beautiful. I can't imagine anything more connected. And the fact that I'm the universe means that I'm you and you're me and the room is us and it's all me out there. I think Bill Hicks said that. It's all me out there. What am I afraid of?
Fuck.
Is that
No, that resonates with me.
Great. Okay, great.
That definitely resonates with me.
Yeah. And so it's about trying to, and that's the challenge sometimes is trying to come from this kind of cold view of what's going on and just siphon it down to how can I feel about that? And there's nice parts to that, I think.
Well, as we said, individuals are responsible for creating their own meaning and purpose.
Yeah. What's more empowering than that, right?
Yeah, but the trouble is for some people it's a constant struggle.
Yes.
If you look at the environment and situations and fucking life.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
life just gets in the way of all this meaning and purpose sometimes, and we don't see the wood for the trees.
That's right. Because we have to live in it. That's the thing as well, because we are biological. You can't think about this stuff all the time. If I walked around thinking about the scale of everything like we were just talking about,
it'd do your head in.
I wouldn't be able to drive or have a conversation about grocery shopping later, right? Because I'd be too distracted. So there's a party that has to normalize it and has to get on with it and has to almost live in the simulation of your own stories to engage with your life. But what's valuable about and this is where you realize everything you talk about or every topic starts to really connect back to the same thing. Metacognition we're talking about before is the ability to kind of, even this, we're using it now by talking about the meaning above everything. That I can zoom out and say, yeah, sure, I'm a homo sapien that goes and buys groceries from a big building where they put a sign on it saying Coles and that's my life. But it's also bullshit at the same time. And that's kind of cool.
How do you think humans are going to fare long term? What's your opinion on the human race?
Right. This is a huge question. It's funny. I used to work at Tesla before I managed to get on the ADHD medication and leave and go into the career I wanted in software. But before I left, I remember I sent Elon Musk 2 messages. Well, 2 emails. Directly? Yeah, because he's, he got his email.
So he had a direct line to him?
Yeah. And he has responded. He responded to a girl that I worked with, actually. So he's likely to do that sometimes. And she's a casual and she was studying mechanical engineering and she had an assignment and she messaged him and said, for renewability, she's like, what would you suggest? And he wrote back. And when you meet her, that's one of the first things. It's like a little party trick. Of course. She's like, look at this. This is my email from Elon. Yeah. It's very cool.
I'm surprised you didn't get it tattooed on her.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And he never replied to me, but on my way out, I sent one with an idea for using VR for showrooms. And he had his private personal assistant reply, so that was close enough. And then on the way out, I sent him some philosophical stuff about where I think the human race is and what really matters. And, I think we talk about energy crisis, the economy's fucked, right? And prices of things are just getting out of control and inequality's growing and the wealth gap's really just driving the price of everything up. And so we have these structural problems and environmental problems and war and all these kinds of things. But trying to come back to fundamentals, what I said to him was, I think the real problem of the 21st century is fragmented identity. we in the past could afford to think differently to each other because we lived in completely separate continents, completely separate villages, and the damage would be localized to that if something went wrong. Maybe inter-tribe, we'd slaughter each other, right? But people overseas were unaffected by that. We now have a global village. If we fuck up in some ways, we fuck the whole thing. AI, nuclear weapons, like the whole lot, right? The environmental degradation. So the only antidote to that is some kind of unifying way of thinking because we live in, I said in the email that we live on the same planet, but we live in different worlds. Because again, the world's in your head, right? The planet is a structure. We're all on the earth that we call it. But I walk around with different ideas about how it got here and what it means to be here and what that other culture means, and I look at them and I think they're the enemy or whatever, right? And that keeps us fighting each other.
Well, it's tribalism, isn't it?
It's tribalism, yes. Yeah, you're right. And that's another problem that we fall into because it helped our survival for so long that by seeking an internal identity with a group, it's wired into us.
Yeah.
It takes everything in our power to be it's called an iconoclast, which is to smash symbols and go, I'm not going to play into that shit. But it's still in there, right? And I think because that seems to be what's causing most of the problems is we're fighting each other, but we're fighting ourselves. It's just humans fighting itself, right? Humanity's fighting itself. And we can't make unified decisions. This country goes, we're going to fix our energy problem, but this one goes, fuck you, we're going to burn a whole bunch of coal and keep going, right? And pollution travels around the globe, so it doesn't really matter. We all live in one place now, and there's a point where humanity either has to figure that out, and we have to grow up. Like we're in our adolescent phase right now, right?
Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Like
I thought we're just adults being fucking obtruse.
Well, adults are still, I mean, adults are kind of teenagers with responsibilities, which is like that's why it's such a mess as well, right? But I think our infancy was, crawling out of the dark in here and enlightenment and realizing that, oh God, we're on a planet and the sun, we go around the sun, not the other way around. But I think about it as adolescence because we're still our identity is split. And you think about what happens in teenage years. There's this rapid exploration of different identities. Latch onto a music genre or a celebrity style, and it can change over 6 months. Someone's a goth now, and then they're this like 6 months later, right? Humanity is that, and it's tearing at itself. Religion for me is one of those things that's been here so long and it's so concrete, it does maintain that problem. And I feel like religion should be respected, packaged up and put in a museum of the mind where we can respect its role. But if we let go and we step out into the common space, it's much harder to attack another culture if you identify them as your own, right? Same with flags. You think about war, people go in with flags and they go, it's for Germany. If we go, we're going to put all those flags in a museum, right? We're going to still name the continents what they are because it's useful to have separate names. But we go,
I like the concept. Right? I like what you're saying.
We're going to have an Earth flag. We can't fight each other. It makes perfect sense. But do you think it's ever going to happen? I don't know. I don't. It's too difficult without some kind of. I was talking to my mate about this concept yesterday in a different context. The Latin word tabula rasa, which is like blank slate. Without some kind of event that just kind of cooks the complexity down a bit and we can come back with the same knowledge. We're trying to deal with untenable complexity right now. It's just, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news there. I think I would love to think that we could sit down in a room and go, we're a bunch of humans on a planet. This is crazy. Let's figure this shit out, right? Like with all the things we know now, how can we structure it so that people have good lives and even a distribution of resources and we can self-actualize and look after everybody? But it's not going to happen because you're like, well, you've got more uranium than me, and we've got more money than you, and your currency's not worth much, and it's all just this bunch of bullshit. I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest. Like that's.
So you're pretty much admitting that it's fucked.
It is fucked.
It's fucked.
It is fucked, and no one is smart enough to figure it out. It's beyond us. Like when the human race evolved, it was never built into our blueprint to deal with 7 or 8 billion of us on a planetary scale, building useless products out of natural resources and selling them to each other just to keep it going.
That's what I said to you earlier on in the break. I said there's too many fucking people here.
Yeah, there is. And I was saying like as kind of a satire joke, it's like I think that too, and then I'm like, oh, but I'm people. I'm one of those too many people. But it is like, there's this idea of carrying capacity. which is, you look at, you go, okay, a farm produces a certain amount of food. How many people can it support? And you go, okay, 100. So if you go to 200, people have to eat half as much and you get famine. So this idea of like the earth, if we were sane, we would measure every resource and the rate of regenerating those resources. And we would say, with current technology, how many people can we support? And then we would coordinate to not exceed that. Because if we do, I think it's called the Malthusian trap. Thomas Malthus, this old philosopher and economist, wrote about this. And he said, it seems to me that humanity is doomed because every time we invent a technology that makes life easier, and so we have X amount of population, we invent a new one, and then we just fill the gap with more people and we just run into the ceiling again. And it keeps happening to a point where whatever we do doesn't impact the quality of life. Now, he was wrong because we have actually improved the quality of life. Technology actually started going faster than that. But philosophically, there's probably a point where that will taper off and we'll just run into those barriers again. And I don't know. I don't have an answer. That's the hard bit, right? But it's interesting to explore. It's anyone's guess, and you look at politics and everything right now. It's a weird time.
It is crazy. So you look at Elon Musk trying to colonize Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great concept, isn't it? I mean, it's a great idea for a kid to have.
Yes.
To work towards. Do you think it's going to be possible at some point? Do you think that's humanity's only fucking hope, is going somewhere else instead of just fucking our own country?
Yeah.
Well, our own
planet.
Planet.
Yeah. I think this is another interesting one. I think I see the logic in it. His mind is like, well, right now he's an engineer, right? He thinks like an engineer, and what we have in engineering is this concept of a single point of failure. So if I build a computer network, right, and in here, we wire up the internet, and I have one device sitting at the middle of it that makes it all work. If that device ever breaks, the whole thing fails, right?
Yes.
So you need multiple choke points and
It's like airplanes. Like
yeah,
the concept of an
redundancy.
airplane.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So he's looking at it from a very clinical view and going, we have no biological redundancy right now. If this planet goes, the experiment of life, this incredibly rare phenomenon, is gone.
That's it.
And no one will know, right? Maybe there's something else out there, and there probably is. It's just the scale's too huge to ever find each other. But maybe some of the species will come here, or we'll evolve again and something else will be here. But he's looking at it going, well, how do we back up DNA somewhere else? And if the Earth is kind of a capsule for DNA right now, it's the substrate that's holding it, like a hard drive storing Harry Potter, right? And you go, well, if the hard drive dies, we lose Harry Potter, and I want to make sure I can watch it in the future. So we go, well, how do we take humanity as Harry Potter and back it up somewhere else? And that's what he's thinking about. I think the tense point is, again, with inequality rising and economic problems, that people look at that and go, is that really the best use of time
Resources
and resources? Yeah, that's right.
Well, as you say, if you look at it on the grand scale, as you've just explained, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It does. Of course, it's a sensible thing to do. And, ultimately, it costs a lot of money. People see like billions of dollars. But, in today's economy, billions of dollars is actually not very much. Like the global economy is worth like trillions of dollars. And I think the total amount of debt is in the quadrillions, like, because it's theoretical and it's always larger. So money is just, it's just a thing that we've invented. So we can just like keep making more and doing whatever we want. But there's obviously problems with that, like inflation. But I think somebody does need to work on this. Someone does need to work on this. But what would be great is if the Earth was sane, the collective efforts of all of us would yield enough fruit, like enough surplus, for us to give surplus to companies like NASA to go, with the collective effort of us as humans, the profit we generate socially and materially, we give to these people who explore space and these ideas to help us figure out more about ourselves and give us hopes and dreams for science fiction futures that are really nice to think about and what we're working towards. So I think it is worth doing. Now, Elon Musk seems to be getting increasingly more unhinged, so I don't know, but there's very smart people around him. And I think somebody should work on it, but I don't think it's the be all and end all. I think we have a lot of problems in our own backyard. But ironically, the more those problems increase, the more the argument for putting us somewhere else too can also get stronger, right? And ultimately people go, oh, it's a waste of money, we should be using it to do this. If you stopped what he was doing and you took the billions of dollars they spend every year and you go, let's put it somewhere else, it still won't fix our problems. So it doesn't really matter that's going on. Like, it's not a zero-sum game. We can do that and we can do everything else,
Oh, I fully agree.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Buckfast. What is Buckfast, you ask? Well, let me tell you, it's better known as Bucky, and it's an internationally enjoyed, unique tasting tonic wine. It's equally rich in heritage as it is in taste. It packs a punch from 15% alcohol and about the same amount of caffeine as a well-known drink that gives you wings. Buckfast's enjoyment is only rivaled by its versatility from the cooking pot to the wine or cocktail glass. Drink it straight, mix it in a Negroni, or use it as a marinade. Available Australia-wide and distributed by Beeblebrox Beverages. Visit beeblebrox.com.au to find your closest stockist and buckfast.com for cocktail and recipe ideas. Hey man, talking about humanity.
Gets pretty heavy.
Hey, our mate Devon's got another. He's got some words with it. We love Devon here.
You love
He's
Devon?
fucking awesome.
Is he in the Is he in the basement or?
I hope not. What's Devon got to say, Matty?
It's your boy Devin here, y'all. And I'm so proud of myself. I didn't itch my asshole when I was out in public today. I'm so proud. I didn't itch my butthole. Okay, bye.
Big win for Devin. I fail at that sometimes, so he's crushing it.
I fucking love that dude. I love that dude. Hey man, what's the most important thing in your life right now?
Wow. Oh, that's huge. Yeah, probably interpersonal relationships actually. Yeah. So I had some. I won't get too deep into this actually. But yeah, I had some big changes earlier this year, and just like a long-term relationship that I didn't handle correctly, and you know, and someone new that made me feel things I didn't expect, and I just really let things kind of fall apart. And in the fallout of that, I've been learning a lot about myself and growing. And I've been in therapy for a while. That's probably the biggest thing. Everything else is sort of normative, going to work and doing all of that. So probably interpersonal relationships is the biggest thing at the moment.
So currently single?
Currently single, yes.
Yeah. And happy in that space?
Happy in that. Yeah, I am.
Is there something
I
that
am.
you think needs fixing?
About me, or I mean,
Well, just in your life, it's like a lot of people need companionship. They need to have,
Sure. I mean, look, I'm not inoculated against feeling lonely sometimes. Those sorts of things. I am pretty much fine on my own though. Like I find ways to. Like people talk about self-soothing, and I don't even necessarily try to do that consciously. I just have my rhythms and my things, and lots of, as you could tell from our conversation, lots of thinking about things, and that's quite a nice space to inhabit. The thing at the moment that's really bugging me is that I did the wrong thing. I had to learn a lot. I was very.
What do you mean you did the wrong thing?
I was very avoidant. I was in a long-term relationship. I met somebody else, and I didn't cleanly cut the previous one, right. And so there's been a lot of guilt but I promised myself if things went bad, because it's not a habit for me to be like this. Effectively, I felt things for someone I didn't expect, and it just kind of got away from me. And but I promised myself that in the fallout, if things went bad, that I would stand there and I would take it, for lack of a better term, like a man or like a human being, and not recoil from it, because I knew that I fucked up, right? And so to be available to anybody who's hurt and there's damage, and to make reparations where I can. And that's what I've been trying to do. And that's been the last 4 months of my life. And I've learned a lot about myself. As I said, I've been in therapy and those kinds of things. So
has it panned out the way that you thought it would with regards to this self-improvement and facing up to what you've done?
In some ways, yeah. In most ways, yes. You can never. The hard thing is you only have your own agency. So I stood there and I've taken all accountability that I can. And actually, previous to it going bad, I was in therapy. I took myself to therapy beforehand, because I'm like, I'm stuck, and for some reason it's the scariest thing for me to try to communicate this and maybe fully cleanly end the last thing without any ambiguity. And there was a lot of ambiguity around that, and I just had a hard time cleaning it up. And so I'd already started the work. But when you're in the storm, it's very hard to apply things. So it took me like 9 months and then the whole mistake was that I was making, my bad behavior was 18 months in total. And so the last 9 months to 1 year, I was in therapy. And it's slow because it's 1 hour a month. So you go to therapy for a year, it's 12 hours. It's not a lot. But I had a plan in place, and I took the first step of that plan. And then before I got to the second step, things exploded. in a really not good way for anybody involved. And there, there's damage in the fallout, and I've just said it's all on me. Like, I get it, just being available to both parties while also working myself. So I'm holding guilt and pain on two sides, and then my own, and that was a lot, right? That's a lot to try.
You're having a whole court, aren't you? Basically,
yeah.
In a way where you're trying to keep a lot of parties happy and conducive to the process of fixing things and putting things right.
Yes, that's right. And in some ways, you can only try to put things right now. You can never undo what you did, and it's just, it's really tough because your heart ends up in multiple places, and then things don't necessarily go the way you're hoping as well, right? Because you only have agency over yourself. So in the fallout, it's up to other people how they process that. And, one party might process it really well and surprise you, and the other one might process it really, really bad and make things quite difficult. Yeah. And it try as you might, you should never try to control anyone else. You just sort of say, this is me, this is where I am, this is what I'm offering. I'll put my hand out, you take it if you want. If not, that's okay. And then you have to work on yourself,
Well, we've always said that the important thing is to look after yourself, because you can't be the person that you need to be for family, for friends, for in my case, I can't be the best version of myself to my wife, to my son, if I'm struggling internally and I'm not the best version of myself. I need to work on me constantly so that they get the best version of me. And sometimes that comes down to being selfish, and unfortunately that's just part of the process.
Yes.
Some people don't understand that they can't see that, they can't reconcile that that's something that you have to do personally.
Yes.
And it's because they don't see internally to themselves that maybe they should give themselves a little bit more, we call it self-love.
Of course.
Once again, it comes down to that, just being consciously aware of yourself and your emotions and your reactions and your non-actions. But it sounds like you've identified what you need to do personally.
Totally.
You've put out an olive branch, and as you say, if you want to accept that, and we can work through that and process it and move on. Yeah. Because it's about moving on, isn't it? It's about taking this point in this time in this universe, and going to another space, another area of that.
Yeah, that's right.
And then trying something new, trying something different, or evolving from what you've learned from that process and those instances.
Sure.
To be a better person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely agree. And you're right about the self-care thing, because I realized with this that, people talk about boundaries, and you sort of go, okay, cool. Like I stepped over people's boundaries by not being honest here, right? And you think the temptation there is to go to work on what you did to someone else's boundaries. But I realized that I have areas in my life where I don't know my own boundaries. And so it's like, if I don't have strong boundaries or assertiveness when I'm uncomfortable, it's hard for me to even model that for other people. So the thing that I've gone to work on the most actually is my own boundary setting.
Yeah. So people see, I've talked about it before, it's about having boundaries, clear lines.
Yeah.
Like with me, what you see is what you get. And I will tell you where my boundaries lie.
Yeah.
The good thing about that is that you can work within those boundaries.
Yes.
You can accept them or you can not.
Yes. And you have agency. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's not. It's not an arrogant or
like a selfish kind of a thing, right? It's just communication.
All I'm trying to do is say, hey, this is me.
This is me.
This is me.
That's how I work.
Right. This is why I don't think and operate the same as the next person in the line.
Yep.
Whether he's the same age, whether he's a male or female, I'm different.
Yep.
I know I'm different.
Yep.
Right. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say to you now, after all these years of trying to figure it out, is that this is who I am.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not trying to mold myself to fit into your narrative.
Of course.
I'm just trying to be me.
Yeah, of course.
And that means I'm happy.
Yeah, of course.
That's all I want.
And other people can just be them, and you figure out where you line up.
Yeah, exactly. Not everybody gets along with everybody. And as we talked about humanity, unfortunately, that's just the way humans are.
That's right. That's
exactly.
right.
That's never going to change. It's never going to change.
Absolutely. And so through this, I've learned, firsthand that even though I sit here and I talk to you about metacognition and being self-aware, that in those moments, I mean, my self-awareness, I knew I was making the wrong choices, but my emotional stuff, my problems, things from my experiences that kind of damaged me were more powerful than me knowing what the right thing was to do. And so, yeah, you just end up making these choices. And the thing that I've grappled with is I took away agency for others by not being honest. And that's because I had a hard time being assertive about my own boundaries and saying, this is how I feel.
Yep.
So I pretended to feel a certain way, and I tried to push through things when I shouldn't have. And it's a bit of people pleasing, I guess. And so and I used to be worse with it. I used to be much worse with it. I started a small business in part to put myself in uncomfortable positions, to learn to find ways to have healthy confrontation. And it helped a lot in my professional and personal like friendship life. But where there was still intense like romantic connection, I was still really struggling with that. And I really fucked up. Like, I get it. And so, yeah, it's really just trying to repair myself and repair. And look, everything's okay now, but it's been quite a bit, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've had quite a journey, and especially with your diagnosis, medication, everything seems to be on an even keel at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's just trying to, there's still some dust settling from what happened. And so it's just seeing that down now and making sure that there's nothing left that needs to be cleaned up that's missed, and that, it's all accountabilities there and everything. But everything else is on an even keel. Yeah, absolutely. So
if we're talking about lessons learned,
yeah,
can you think of one?
Yeah, again, I think the boundary setting,
Yeah.
because I think that leads to being able to be honest. If I'm comfortable setting boundaries, I'm comfortable to tell you how I feel, and that's honesty. And I struggled with that just because I'm worried about how someone else is going to feel.
You think about how many people that exist have that exact same thought.
Yeah,
My thoughts in my head are being curated based on what I think somebody else is going to think.
yes, 100%.
I'm not going to say it's toxic, but
Yep.
it's not healthy.
Yeah, of course.
Is it?
Of course. Like, we definitely, and there's that balance of, like, I should be mindful of a joke I make in the presence of somebody who might be offended, and, because maybe it's sensitive for them or whatever. And I'm not responsible for their emotions, but I can be mindful of how it might feel for them. But I should also, when it comes to my own feelings, where the boundary is I shouldn't sideline my own feelings for someone else because I'm afraid of their feelings. And that was where my line was getting blurred. So it was like, well, I'm uncomfortable with something, and I'll wear it, like, because I don't want to upset you. And that's not good. That's not healthy, because you're not getting an accurate reflection of me either. So you keep doing what you're doing. You think it's fine. I'm suffering over here, and then I make decisions that then hurt you because you thought this was something it's not.
Yeah, you just got a mask on.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew it was on, and I went to therapy to try to, and I take it off in therapy, and then you put it back on because you're like, well, I can't go and implode everything right now. I have to go to work tomorrow. And you get in this trap of, I'll find the right moment. But then you're standing there and you're like, it's Wednesday, 7:00, and I've just finished eating dinner. Is it now? Do I go and pull the walls down right now? Is that what's going to happen? And then you're like, well, I got a meeting early tomorrow morning, so I'll wait. Or there's an event coming up, I'll wait. And it just... The year, you talk about cyclical nature before of reality. The year's cyclical, the calendar year. So there's always birthday or Easter or Christmas. So you go, I'll wait, and before you know it, you're wrapped around. So big lessons there. Just to be like, hey, I feel this way, and how does that make you feel? And just going from there.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's about owning your own emotions.
Yeah.
Before you put it out on the table for everybody else to digest.
Yeah, exactly. And not punishing other people and giving them silent treatment because you don't know how to process your own feelings, and just being brave enough to step forward and say, I did something wrong here. And people respect that. Honestly, like I was saying before, it's amazing what can be solved with a talk, no matter how complicated things feel. If you step forward and say, I'm sorry, I acted out of turn. It was an accident. I felt this way and I was stuck. Can we talk about it? And I'm sorry if that hurt you, and we can talk about your feelings.
Isn't that married counselling 101?
Yeah.
About owning the emotion and communicating it to your partner.
Yeah.
I've never been, so but I can understand how that would be the first step.
Definitely.
Regardless of whether it's your partner, your friend, a co-worker, or anything. It's that first communication is like,
definitely.
Hey, did what I say breach or encroach or offend or...
Sure.
Because that's the thing, generally nobody intends to go out and offend anybody.
That's right.
On purpose.
That's right.
So I can quip about something and it can be misconstrued.
Yeah.
As you say, we talked about comedy previously.
Yep.
That's the trouble with comedians these days, is that people are just too quick to be offended.
Agreed. Yeah, but they turn up and then they go, "I'm offended." And it's like, well, it's voluntary. So
Yeah,
don't-
that's your reaction. That's your choice to be
Yes.
offended. You choose to be offended.
you don't have to sanitize the world for everyone else.
That's not the comedian's job is not to intentionally offend.
That's right.
It's to make people laugh.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly. You're 100% right. And yeah, it is just amazing how much, you know, if we sit down and we hold space for each other, and a thing that has come out of this, I've never had to do this therapy, but I've been reading more about it. It's dialectic behavior therapy. Have you heard of that one?
No.
Have you heard of cognitive behavior therapy?
Yes.
CBT. So
Yes.
DBT is sort of off the back of that, and DBT is really about dialectics, which is opposing ideas that are at opposite ends of the scale. So this is either good or bad. And when people have trouble with dialectic thinking, they engage in black and white thinking or splitting. And you see this in relationship dynamics. Someone thinks you're the best thing since sliced bread, and then they get angry and they go, "I fucking hate you. You're the worst person I've ever met." There's no in the middle.
Yep. And
And dialectics, so if you hurt someone, they then go, "You're a bad person." Right? Even if there's humanity behind it, if you can sit down and say, "I'm really sorry," and this is what the space I'm inhabiting. I'm like, I can actually explain to you why this happened. You don't have to be happy about it, and I appreciate that I've hurt you, but these are the reasons and the context and where I was at, and that should help you. If you can let that in and understand me, that kind of quenches things, and you don't have to need anything else from me after that, but it really helps. And so one of them in this case is you can love someone and they can hurt you, and some people can't hold those two things together. So you go, this person loves me and they hurt me. And it could apply to your parents, or it could apply to a friend, or mostly it can probably apply to, you know, a relationship that you have with someone romantically. They have their own conditioning and their own crap and their own blinders on, and they hurt you. And then you go, well, they mustn't love me. And it's like, that's not necessarily true. Those two things don't always go to, they could be the same and together at the same time. They can hurt you and they can love you. And that's something that people benefit from knowing that and being able to step into that space and say, you know, it's not as bad as it seems, you know. And it's easy for me because I'm the guilty party. So I'm like, I want everyone to please understand me and hold space for me. But you know, with the caveat that I have the responsibility of holding space first because I'm the offending party. Yeah. And so I'll model that and show you that I can do that. And hopefully we can do that for each other.
Apart from that, man, we've got a list of this. We've got a list of the stuff that you actually like to do on your days off when you got some time and you're not thinking about the universe.
Yep.
So you like to cook?
Love to cook. Yeah, love to cook.
I got here smoking meat.
Yeah.
It says exploring smoking meat. Have you not done it, or you're on the edge of smoking meat, or do you need a hand across the divide?
Look, so I have started, and it's something that I got into in the last 12 to 24 months. So I say exploring because I still haven't gone everywhere I want to go with it. And, you know, I bought, rather than spend a lot of money, and if I don't know I'm going to like something, I went and got just like I can't remember the name of like a Weber sort of a style.
Yep.
But it's not Weber brand. It's something else. And it's like a kettle effectively. And they're really manual. They're notorious for being really manual. Like you've got to put the coals in and you've got to come back and regulate the temperature. And I thought that's great. It's really manual. It's like learning to drive a manual car before you drive an auto. It'll teach me to appreciate if I get a better one that does auto feeding and later on, and I'll know what I'm doing and why it works that way. And so, yeah, started off with doing pork belly. I've done chicken wings. I've reversed sear tomahawk steaks, but instead of starting them in the oven and searing them after, I'd smoke them and then finish them, which is really nice. And of course brisket. And brisket's really interesting with this because it's so manual that it's 8 to 10 hours at least, and then you got to let it rest. And so you have to really babysit it. And I've got a really expensive meter thermometer, and the app shows like the temperature fluctuations, and it's like this all throughout the day, right? Because you walk away and it comes down. I got to top it up. But as long as the meat slowly crests to that ready point, you get what you want out of it. And it's amazing. And I feed people brisket, and they say this is the most incredible piece of meat I've ever tasted.
We didn't tell you prior to the podcast, but my brother-in-law's the New Zealand barbecue champion.
Really?
He was the New Zealand barbecue
Holy
champion.
shit.
2021. So yeah, so we know
I got some things to learn.
He's
there.
been on the podcast. If you ever look at the previous episodes,
I will go and check it out. Absolutely.
Brendan Resmer, yeah. So
awesome.
So I know a little bit about smoke. So it's really cool to hear your take on actually getting into smoking meat, because I was the same thing. I used to avoid it because my brother-in-law did everything. So
you just enjoy it.
If I want good meat, I'm going to go see my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
But then you've got to dip a toe in the water. And I was the same thing. I got a kettle, and I remember the first piece of meat that I smoked was actually it was a beef short. Short rib, which is probably not the best one to start on.
Yep.
And it was actually it was a raining day in Melbourne, and of course you set your coals up, you got your temperature probes with your little app and everything, and it's fluctuating all day, and you're running in and out and trying to, playing with the
Keep it
exactly
balanced,
trying to keep it balanced. And the one thing that you quickly learn is that doesn't really mean anything in the scale of things.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It's about time and it's about temperature.
Yes.
That's the concept of it.
Yep.
And going out there and seeing it fluctuating like with the probes that it will do doesn't mean anything in the scale of things.
100%.
Over the course of the period, as long as it's a constant temperature.
Yep.
But yeah, brisket is the ultimate. When you master a good brisket. But the good thing about it, it's like artwork. It's like shit in, shit out.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If it's good meat, you start with good meat.
Yep.
And that like if you're going to learn how to do it, get the cheaper pieces of meat.
That's right. Exactly. Don't go and burn all your money on it and screw it up.
It's the same with any. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a good brisket is just insane. When you finally nail that.
Oh man.
And you get the formula right, and you can do it, your friends will love you forever.
100%. And you know it's right when it has a wobble, right? And you can't see through the bark yet, and then you cut, and it's just, for lack of a better word, wet. It's just wet inside. And it's just
so you before you take it off, it should probe like butter.
Like butter, right? Yeah, exactly. All the fats rendered down. It's so good. I love it, and I like the slowness of it. There's something purposeful about doing things the long way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely methodical, and it's a great way to spend a day.
Yeah,
a couple of beers, TV's on,
totally.
Whether you're watching racing, motor racing, or footy or whatever.
Yeah, just having a chat. Yeah,
and just that smell, and that's the thing is like people that have always cooked on barbecues have never cooked on coal or fire.
Yeah,
they don't understand it.
Yeah,
the taste is just.
It's a whole other category.
Oh, for sure.
Which I realized when I started cooking with it, I was like, holy shit, there are flavor profiles here that it's just impossible without doing this.
Yeah. It's like marijuana and cocaine.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to get the same out of each, right? Yeah, you have to go to each one. Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a really nice journey, actually.
That's awesome, man. I'm happy for you.
And sharing it with people.
Yeah.
So you have people come around and they didn't have to do the hard work. And they're like, oh, that's what's on it like this time. Like, oh man, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, that's great. You get to enjoy it anyway, right?
Yeah.
And I've had brisket out, and I've only done like 5 of them, right? But 4 of them turned out really, really good. Yeah. And for me, even my palate, they've tasted better than ones that I've had out at restaurants, only because I guess when you do it yourself and you do it slowly and you control everything and it's got the right amount of rub on it that you want, or like people say, you don't really dry brine a brisket. But I'm like, it's a piece of meat. It's a piece of heavy meat. So if it works for a tomahawk, it'll work for this. Yep. So not just having bark on the outside, but like let salt penetrate for 24 hours into the center of it. And you have to be careful because it can get too salty. But I found that drives flavor right through to the bottom. And people haven't, they're like, holy fuck, what did you do to this thing? And it's like, oh mate, it's just, but whereas I've had brisket out and it's a little dry, and this is not me criticizing professionals, they got to do it at scale. So it's harder to control. Yeah. But when you do it yourself, I don't know, you have that control. It's nice.
The good thing about that, as you say, you've got to that point where you're producing a product which is better than a restaurant. Like we specifically don't go to a lot of barbecue restaurants because we just don't want to be disappointed.
Of course, and pay more money for it.
Yeah, exactly. But as you say, that satisfaction of spending that time and effort and love.
Yes.
Putting that into that meal and having people respond to you by consuming it, and that's the great thing about a lot of communities and cultures in that around the world is that
food is central.
Food is central to their essence.
Yes. And it's not just the eating; it's the preparation.
Yeah, preparation. It's a song and dance. It's a process. It
is, and it's really, you can feel it when you do it. It's really healthy. It's like part of Western culture, I think, which we try to optimize everything, and so we skip steps, we skip the work, and we go, I'm just going to get the frozen meal and put it in the microwave, and I'm eating because I'm supposed to eat, and it's like you're missing the largest part of what's built into us. And you can't do it all the time because we're busy.
No, of course.
But you know what's nice? Sometimes I've had friends with problems and they're like, I'm really upset right now and I need to talk to someone, like mates. And I'll be like, come around, I'm cooking pasta. Come and help me. And they'll come and we'll stand in the kitchen and we'll cut herbs and crush garlic and talk about problems. And it's like, in my head, I'm like, it would be great if you could go somewhere and do cooking and therapy. Like that'd be kind of a cool thing to do.
Oh, for sure.
It gives you something meditative to do and collaborate on that softens your current feelings, because you're
it's a business idea we can do downstairs.
Yeah.
Look at the space downstairs.
Yeah.
Makes perfect
There you go.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and it's always been really, really nice. And at the end of it, you sit down, you eat together, and it's awesome. Another thing I learned to smoke was bacon.
I thought you were going to say weed.
No, yeah, I mean, I learned to smoke that before I learned to smoke meat. I haven't touched that for a while, actually. I think once I got on my meds, I was like, this is what I need.
Yeah. You need good pharmaceuticals. That's what you need.
Exactly. But yeah, smoking bacon's really good. Like curing it for 5 days, and then doing a wet cure in a Ziploc bag with salt and sugar and maybe a little bit of ketchup, mayonnaise, and some maple syrup or something. Get a bit of sweetness in there, and then smoke it, up to temperature, and take it off and let it cool down, and just carve it up and freeze some of it for bacon. I have had someone in my life that I've let try that after months admitted I cannot eat store-bought bacon at home anymore.
Oh, really?
I've stopped. And I'm like, you didn't tell me that. And they're like, oh no, I just didn't think to say it. But it's not that they can't eat it. They're like, I've tried that and it is so good that normal bacon just, I don't know. It's like, I didn't expect that. I'm like, I'll take bacon however I can get it. I'll fucking eat all the bacon.
Yeah.
But smoked bacon is, when it's done properly, holy shit.
Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. Hey, man, it's been a fucking pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Same.
And I don't like to swear like that. Excuse my French. It has been a fucking pleasure today to have you here.
Same for me.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
I hope you can come back. Can you come back?
100% I'll be here. Yeah.
Awesome, mate. But as I said, mate, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. It's been a privilege.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're coming back, man.
I'll be there.
That's a wrap, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in and for your time. You know the vibe, I'm steady living until I die. It's a loose state of mind and we showed you that. Keep it authentic and real, I hope you coming back. Hey, make sure that you subscribe, cause we got it popping all the time and it's going down. If you wanna elevate, wanna live a better life, keep it locked here. You know it's a loose state of mind, let's go.